Welcome to the Getting Work Pod. I'm Ian. That's Jarrett. We are going to have ourselves a talk on our top 10 favorite wrestlers tonight. This is really on the heels of Vince McMahon retiring this week, so wrestling is at the forefront. Vince McMahon was such a big part, at least for me. I won't speak for Jarrett. Vince McMahon is such a big part of wrestling in general for me. It just practically everything I know about wrestling has come one way or the other through something that he created. There are a couple of people that maybe not, but he's such a big part. How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Going good. Yeah, it's funny listening because talking about Vince McMahon retiring and everything that's going on. Because I always thought that there would be something. Vince McMahon was somebody that you would have to drag out kicking and screaming or just have his heart stop.
Right, yeah. I didn't think that would actually be. I mean, he's way older than I am, but it's one of those that you almost expect him to always be there, always be around.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I think with everything going on in his age, yeah, he decided to hop off. But for me, it was always interesting because I actually started with the Southern Territories,
right?
Of wrestling, and like also rolling into kind of NWA, and then as it evolved into World Championship Wrestling.
Sure.
But also then watching, especially like in the 80s, but it was that 80s, that rock and roll wrestling. They had the cartoon.
Saturday morning cartoons.
Going with Saturday morning cartoon. They had
Saturday morning.
They'd have Hogan in little movies, and No Holds Barred, I remember being a big one way back. But also like him coming in, and Rocky, although that was before he actually started with the WWF. At the time, he was actually
that?
with.
Was he still was AWA?
I think it was AWA. But it was right on the heels of it.
Gotcha.
It was not long after that he made the move over to WWF.
Right.
So yeah, I have a different view on Vince. I guess it's probably more in line with a lot of the folks that did watch all of that, and then what the territories were and how things were conducted there. Whereas, Vince McMahon really helped to develop the antithesis of that. It is basically more of a conglomerate style of wrestling promotion.
Right.
The thing I will say about Vince was that I started watching the WWF early enough to where my first introduction to Vince McMahon was as a commentator.
Yeah.
On camera, he was not the president. He was not the president. It was somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
And
I forgot what that guy's name is, but I can picture him.
Yeah, I can't. Same thing. I'll probably come up with the name here in a minute, and it'll pop up.
Yeah, for sure.
Like something Sully or
I'm Chris
Gordon
Cross.
Sully.
I can see his face perfectly fine, but his name I'm crossing over into like WCW. There's another guy in WCW that always reminds me of him.
But ultimately, it was more a matter of that guy was the puppet up in front, playing the character of the president.
Yeah.
While Vince was running the show both. And if you think about it, it's kind of a smart move because he was the voice of WWF wrestling.
Right.
He was the commentator.
Cole,
he was the one. He was JR before there was JR. He was Michael Cole before there was Michael Cole. For the WWF at least. JR, of course, was big on kind of more of the NWA, Southern circuits, that kind of thing. Before he came over to WWF, and for a lot of people, became the voice of wrestling.
Right.
So it's funny, but yeah, I have a different approach to Vince. I've not always liked his decisions, but then some of the stuff he's done, it's like, man, that's just pure gold. And it's just, especially as you find out some of the things that were his idea.
Sure.
And then you're like, oh,
was
no.
That was what you were going for?
No, that's not good.
Unfortunately, and I'll try to stay out of this. We're gonna touch it, and then we're gonna get out.
Yeah,
of
we can move on
fast.
to the list.
But the little bit of kind of all the dark clouds and things that are surrounding his retirement kind of leads you to believe that. I mean, the type of person he was in business seemed to be the type of person, the good and the bad. He'd see what he wanted, he went and got it, for better or for worse. Yeah. And
which is often
like
the
I
case.
said, I'm not going to get any further than that. That's where we're at.
Yeah, that's a whole nother ball game.
Sure,
I figure, if anything else, I would say, you can kind of speculate, but if anything else, I'm more of the mindset of wait for all that to flesh out.
Yeah, completely. Because it's all speculation. It's not like any of us were there.
Right. And it's still kind of what do they call, legally, assumed right
allegedly.
now.
Everything's
allegedly.
Right,
exactly. Right. It's not so, I think after everything bears out and court decisions are made and that kind of thing, we can kind of see. Now, what's interesting too is that it's more of an internal investigation, and it kind of depends on if there are any lawsuits or anything that come out of it.
Right.
But it's more of an internal investigation within the WWE at this stage.
Sure.
So there may never be any true to form legal decisions made off of this. There just might be more of a matter of deciding whether we're going to oust Vince McMahon, and maybe Vince was like, screw it, I'm going to fire it before it quits on me.
So, honestly,
we may never know completely, but still, I think there's still enough going on.
Though, right? Like, I'm going to control this negative narrative. This is what
hell yeah. Dude didn't like the sneeze.
Sure. Yeah.
Dude did not like the sneeze.
He didn't like people sneezing around it because it showed lack of control.
Well, no, and he hated, he hated hearing sneezes. He hated the sneeze himself.
Right.
He hated anything that would take him out of control for even a second.
Yeah. And
so 100%.
To be fair, if there is one thing Vince is always known for, right? It is what is best for business. If it don't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. That's the old line. Vince, that was a mantra. If it meant that he had to make a deal with the devil, then he made that deal and smiled about it and shook hands. Think of all the times that we're gonna go down the road. Let's stop this road. But yes, Vince McMahon retiring this week. Wishing him well in his future endeavors, etc., etc. So, top 5 wrestlers.
Top 5.
Again, I will do the caveat of it's our favorite. So we're not going necessarily ranking. We're not saying the best of all time. We're saying our favorite. That's 5.
Different conversation altogether.
Right.
And that's where we kind of figure out, kind of the criteria and things like that on what we think would help to, how do you assess that?
Right.
Without it just being an opinion pieces, which what this is.
Sure.
So let's get this out of the way. And then we get over to like maybe a bit more of a planned, cohesive list of, these are the people based off this criteria. We figured out what this is. And these are the top 5 because of all these reasons.
And let us know. Let us know in comments below and things like that. Let us know like your top 5, your ones that you think we left off the list, that type of thing. And as we go, like I said, we're gonna do more of these where we're digging deeper, like Jarrett was saying. So, let me start off and preface a little bit. Jarrett and I, just to give you a little bit of background, kind of where we're coming from. Jarrett has been, if you even notice in the first part of what we've talked about so far, how long Jarrett has known about wrestling, and it's been much more a part of his younger life than mine. I came in roughly around, so if for those that are looking back at wrestling in general and the timeline, Surfer Sting. If you know what I'm talking about, you know roughly where I came in as far as wrestling goes. So Surfer Sting. Sting had the yellow hair. It was spiky. He had the yellow and blue face paint. yellow tights with a black scorpion on it. That's who came in as that was the time period that I came in. The Four Horsemen were around, and it was it NWA or WCW at that point? I can't remember that. I can't remember what came on. I would watch Saturday morning.
By then it was WCW, but I might be, it wasn't far off.
They were right at that point.
It was not far off.
Or they may have even been intermingling at that point.
So what you had there was kind of a culmination of the NWA Southern Territories and really what was Jim Crockett Promotions ended up becoming World Championship Wrestling.
Right.
And it was so depending, but again, now you gotta realize that he came in, it was probably closer to like, it was a record around 87. Sure. But you started later than that.
Yeah, I was right around 90. I want to say, honestly, no, I'm trying to think back, try to get my timeline right. I would have been watching.
You might have been more like 96.
No, 96. By that time, I'm talking about the youngest, the first time I ever came through wrestling. And then I sort of didn't watch it for a while. There's a lull for me. There's the young, I'm watching cartoons, and I go from cartoons to cartoons ended at 12 o'clock Saturday morning cartoons, back when they had cartoons on Saturday morning.
Oh, I know.
They
that used to be a thing.
Yeah, that used to be a thing. That was a big thing. We look forward to that every Saturday. But anyhow, cartoons ended at noon, and at noon from 12 to 1, wrestling would come on. So that was in the 80s. That was probably 87, 88, 89, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I watched then off and on. That was where, like I said, that was my first, hey, this is this thing called wrestling. I 100% believed it was all extraordinarily real. So, yeah, that was a different time. It was a different time. There was, Vince McMahon had not, speaking of somebody that had affected things, Vince McMahon had not outed everybody as far as how wrestling has some scripting to it. So that's where I came in. So what about you? I was going to say, I've talked enough about
I was going to say, I think I was going to say your second run, when you started back second. So
it's about 95. 95, 96.
Well, you said that you started watching it back again. Shawn Michaels wasn't wrestling at the time.
Right.
So that was during his first.
He was.
Okay.
But I never saw him.
You never saw him?
Yeah, I never saw him wrestle. He was on Raw. Him and Triple H. DX was there. DX was definitely a thing. They were. I'll remember the first Raw that I watched that I really remember looking back on. I can see Triple H and Shawn Michaels. If I see the Raw, I can tell you it's like that one. And Triple H and Shawn Michaels are talking to, is it Bret? I think Bret's on the Jumbotron. And Shawn Michaels and Triple H like do this thing where they're like back and forth to each other. And I can tell you, like I said, if I see it, I'm like that one is that one. That's the first one, because I was trying to figure out who these two jokers were. And so that's the first Raw that I watched, because up until then I just watched WCW. So probably a little bit before, I say 6 months, maybe a year, not quite a year. Probably about 6 months before that is when I had started getting back into wrestling, watching WCW.
So the timing is, so you're talking about Triple H with HBK as part of the Generation X.
DX, yeah. So there was
DX.
DX.
Okay, that didn't start till 97. Michaels didn't join till a little bit later, because it first started with Triple H in China in 97. So yeah, that would peg it probably around the earliest, would probably be about mid to late 97. I'm trying to figure out exactly when Michaels came into it, but it had been like 97 at the earliest.
Right.
Because it didn't even form till then.
Yeah. that's where I come back.
And that's right. So that makes a bit more sense because then, yeah, you never really saw true to form, like HB, like Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, like the pinnacle of it.
Not
like,
until I went back and watched, but no.
Right.
Yeah,
so watch the old.
Shawn,
yeah.
As far as I was concerned, he was DX. That was all I'd ever known of him.
Sure.
And it was probably, when was WrestleMania? I want to say WrestleMania 14. Am I that old? I think so. WrestleMania 14, I believe it is. Let me just check. WrestleMania. I'm going to say it's 14. For some reason, 14 is the one. Yeah, it's 14. That is the first WrestleMania that I come back in. March
of 98. That makes sense.
So that's, by that time, I'd probably be watching about 10 months. It probably wasn't a year before that. That's about where I came in. So yeah, 97. Basically mid 97.
That makes
pre Stone Cold. Stone Cold was some dude that was, he looked real familiar to me. This is how old I am. That he looked real familiar, and I was like, Steve Austin. I've heard that name somewhere, and kept trying to think, and all of a sudden it dawned on me who I remember him as. I remember him as Stunning Steve Austin.
Yes,
and he would walk around with the Hollywood Blondes. Was the Hollywood Blondes? I can't remember what their names were, but I just remember they would sit there and they'd do this like in the ring, like they would do a move, and then they were doing a reel and stuff like that. I'm like, that can't be the same guy, because you must understand Hollywood Blondes were more like, I can't even think of a tag team.
They were closer to like the Fantastics, a little bit of Midnight Express mixed in.
I was trying to think of somebody today who they would be.
Oh, today, the Varsity Blondes on AEW, because that's exactly who they're.
Yeah, okay.
Because it was Steve Austin and Brian Pillman who were the Hollywood Blondes.
It was so I always forget who the person was.
Yeah, and so then because that was WWF. Kind of looking it up here. That was WCW. That was WCW.
Right.
Because I also remember he came in as I think he came into WWF, the Ringmaster. That's when he came into WWE, because that was right around the time that they started making that changeover. And that was so it would have had to have been kind of in that lull, because about 96 or so, it was that King of the Ring where the whole Austin 316 promo dropped.
Right. Yeah. He was full on Austin 316 by the time I came around. I didn't know anything about the Ringmaster until I went back and kind of watched everything. When he was with Ted DiBiase and all of that. None of that. So as far as I'm concerned, like Stone Cold has always been, Stone Cold. He's that's that guy. But anyhow, that's the time frame. I had been watching WCW before that, though. So
so you've kind of come in. You started in with that time,
basically right around the NWO
coming in there. Yep.
The NWO, because I couldn't figure out why Sting was now the Crow. And, I was trying what the heck is that? But anyhow, that's me. That's
that helps that helps to set it up. I started probably regularly watching wrestling. I think the earliest I can remember, I was 6 years old. So this would have put it at about 1984.
Okay.
You had the territories. One of the good things about living in Virginia is that you're actually pretty well positioned.
Yeah.
Kind of at that northern tip of the southern territories.
Right.
But then you also had access to what was going on in the WWF. And so you could see Smoky Mountain Wrestling, Memphis, AWA, just all of that. And then you could also see
almost in Virginia.
You could kind of start to see so many different things. And I even went to, I can't remember exactly who it was. I'd have to hunt down the actual show. It was in Roanoke. And I can't remember what territories, as far as which company it was with, but it was Southern. It was, and it wasn't a bunch. It wasn't a lot of big names. I think it was more of a house show.
Sure.
But it was, and I think it would have been one of those things that if I'd have been a bit more cognizant of it, I probably would have caught on a little bit more. But yeah, I started watching about 1980. So yeah, probably 1984. I was 6 years old, and then it was really probably more like starting at about 8. So about 1985. It was 6. Let me back. I'm gonna do my math right. No, 8. I would have been 1984. I started watching in 1982. Started getting kind of quasi serious with it in 1984.
Gotcha.
And then was watching all the different stuff going back and forth. I remember watching WrestleMania 3 on pay-per-view.
Okay. All right.
So
that's the one where Andre the Giant gets slammed.
I believe so. Yeah, I think that's the one where Hogan body slams
right.
Andre the Giant.
Gotcha.
So all that stuff, and then watching, but also the cool thing about watching those, you kind of start to see where people would move back and forth. Was watching all the different stuff going back and forth. I remember watching WrestleMania 3 on pay-per-view to WWF.
Okay.
People would leave there. They would go into basically because once WCW
solidified, the Giant gets slammed
and really became kind of that. Yeah, I think that's the one where Hogan, if you were watching body slams, the culmination of Andre the Giant, Southern wrestling. So all in the 80s, all that stuff, and then watching. But also the cool thing about watching those, you kind of start to see where people would move. And then was watching all the different stuff together. I remember watching WrestleMania. I remember watching the formation, like the legitimate formation. People leave there. They would started because once WCW, I remember watching on television that. Yeah, I think that's the formation. You're watching Four Horsemen, the culmination Anderson uttering those words for the first time. I was watching all that stuff and then watching it. But also the cool thing about watching those, you kind of start to see when people would. Arn Anderson's on my list. Watching all that sort of stuff together. Arn Anderson, we're watching definitely watching the. Again, this isn't legitimately formation. It definitely makes once WCW, not necessarily because it's watching it's hard to kind of put together formation. You're watching criteria and putting it together. Arn Anderson Southern wrestling. So me as a kid watching all that stuff and watching it at that time, and watching the formation, and people would. Arn Anderson's on my list and how they really came together. And Arn Anderson is definitely watching. Again, this is they were the driving formation. They were the clips of once WCW, not necessarily because watching the formation, watching criteria and they were 4 guys who. So the reason why the kid watching the flex, they always said the guys who watching the formation and wanted to understand the business and how they were wanted to Arn Anderson and definitely watching. Again, this is they were the house now. They were the clips. Now, one of the things WC questions you can put in certain numbers of that formation. Putting it in four guys. Some of the reasons why they watching solid guys who watching and wanted to understand how they but Shawn could be in that list. Shawn could be in that list. Like Shawn, once Shawn got in the ring, put in everything was fine. Certain numbers of that formation, but it was everything else outside of the ring. Guys, it was just so crazy. Kevin Nash, you never know, and halfway make get a good start going and understand how they you actually like Kevin Nash. Sean could be in the 4 Horsemen that started. Sean could be in that list. Like Sean got in the ring, owned it, put in everything was fine inside and out. But it was everything else outside the ring. It was just so crazy. Kevin Nash getting this done halfway make and we're not. Get a good start taking over understand how they and actually like Kevin Nash. But and well that's the thing. It's like this is each like within or outside of kayfabe. It doesn't matter. Sean got owning wrestling. Everything's fine inside and out. Exactly. I mean that's how they did it. To me, Arn Anderson legitimized some of that faction are getting this done. He was the voice. He was the voice that basically. And it's interesting because and with another guy on my list, that I'll talk about within it wasn't the loudest matter. They are owning wrestling. Really didn't have to yell. Exactly. Didn't have to yell. But I'm still talking about Arn Anderson. Arn is the other guy that Arn didn't have to yell. Because he was very voice that very serious. Basically, and it's interesting because and with another guy on my list, that I'll talk about within it wasn't the loudest matter. They are owning old crotchety. Didn't have to yell. Exactly. Didn't have to yell. But I'm still talking about Arn Anderson. Arn is the other guy that Arn didn't have to yell. I think so. Because he was very anyway. He doesn't matter anymore. He was just an old crotchety. It's interesting series about things and did things right, but really wasn't until Barry Windham came in. It really started by matter. They and to me the force was crotchety and Arn Anderson. Exactly. But I'm still talking about Arn Anderson. Arn is the other guy that Arn didn't have to yell. I think so. Anyway, he doesn't matter anymore. He was just an old crotchety. It's Ric Flair about things and Arn Anderson, right? But really wasn't Tully Blanchard and came in very closely. It really started by matter. They and to me the force was crotchety and Arn Anderson. Exactly. But I'm still talking about Arn Anderson.
You still see the other guys like
Arn didn't have to yell. Anyway, he doesn't matter anymore. He was just an old crotchety. No. He's still around. Arn Anderson retired. Really Tully Blanchard came in very closely. It really started by matter. Exactly. He's smart. They're still in it. They're still doing the other guys. And Arn, again, especially when you see Arn Anderson. Anyway, he doesn't matter anymore. He was just an old crotchety. Not on the cameras. No. He's still around. So he's Arn Anderson retired. Really Tully Blanchard came in very closely. They probably actually better off. Exactly. Arn not really. I think the manager role fit for him. It was not even more of a manager, it was more of a coach. Especially when you see Arn, he was playing more of the role of a coach. Anyway, he had been on the cameras, still back line on it. Basically what it is that you could be not really ownership of manager role and entire programs. And it's not even more of a manager, it's more cool, especially when you run an agency where, okay, anyway, he didn't have these matches lined up for, say, like the next 4 shows, back line is on it, specific matches. Basically what it is that your job is wrestlers where they're supposed to be higher programs that you do, you have to manage TV spots, especially you're running this where and then at this time we can boots late, these matches lined up for 4 shows down the ramp and that was your job and specific matches. A lot of people want the best at it. Basically, so that's why I want your job. Wrestlers again, probably no surprise to anybody. Higher programs that we managers more spots, especially you're running this where number 2 jigs at this time. We can boost late, these matches lined up. You know he's going to be on the ramp. That was again, another guy who actually didn't AEW. So a lot of people other than his voice being shot. So that's why I'm still wrestlers again, probably no surprise to anybody. To be able to manage quietly, especially you're running this thing, dangerous matches sinister. You know he's going to be on the ramp. And another guy again, AEW, and he never had to get his voice being shot. So that's why I'm still probably no surprise that to this day considered one of the best promos in the business. Quietly and also just a raw takeout, especially at that level. Called him one take Jake. For a lot of times, and now AEW, maybe some of the never had to get the voice acting shot. So be live they got no strive to this. It was that kind of thing. Like Jake will strive in the business. Wyatt, Jake would be one of those guys. Also, said right up to the camera. He would get his tape out and especially at that level. Exactly what he takes Jake. Where he wanted to get to. A lot of times, and he had just kind of a style. Maybe some a lot of it had to get out of his hand and shot. So be live because he was able to they got no strive in it was actually Jake gave you kind of look at your little Wyatt. Jake one of those guys. Also said right up to the camera. I mean, and that enough to be like exactly what he where he wanted. And the other thing too, and then I think that's where like and that's where I think the DDT was such a lot of it literally stumbled into the DDT by accident. They got no. It was a move. He had somebody in a headlock. Jake gave you kind of look at your little Wyatt. Jake was kind of moving back. Either Jake kind of got tripped up or the other guy kind of tripped up, and then that literally dropped like a jet. Where he wanted. And the other thing, so then he was like, so that didn't end up being finished in that match, but he was like, I'm on something. Literally, and the fact that if you watch Jake drop it, like he just dropped it move, he had somebody in a headlock, pull that short clothesline on you. I mean, his setup for it was a short clothesline, and then the DDT, and then that literally dropped where he wanted. And the other thing, so then he was like, so that didn't end up being finished in that match, but he was like, I'm on something. Literally, and the fact that watch Jake drop it, and it was a move, and it wouldn't, the thing is like, that was like his perfect setup, but it wouldn't necessarily be like that. Short clothesline, like you do something, he catch you, and got it, and all you have to do is that common move, and the other thing, so then he was like, and so that he takes something so common and like the knowledge that had literally for that time back of them watching it and it was a move he now it's just and it wouldn't the thing is like that was like his setup, but it wouldn't that day, especially when he like short bended it, like you do something he catches and all you have to common move and the other secret weapon then he was like and then the cherry on the cake was like the knowledge that had because literally for that time of them watch without whatever version of baby he was running probably like 200 snakes that was Mania but it wouldn't and I remember I saw him like bit like he catching and see what was so crazy too was like something was basically Jake the other secret Jake actually did he was like and that cherry on the cake was like the knowledge that had because literally for that time of them watching that was Randy Savage whatever version of baby Savage had the phobia Jake didn't have a phobia but he really just I think it was more because it was in that I saw him but also at the same time it's like he catching snake and see what was so crazy too was like he was kind of again playing up to my character but also it was like kind of probably the concern of and something that was wonky with this not necessarily keep him well fed that was that's it but I remember he was on Savage had the phobia I didn't remember the name of the show I think it was more because it was in that show I saw him but also at the same time it's like Jake sitting there and so crazy too there is so up to my match like also 4-person kind of probably concern of and this snake could or like go one end of the couch to the other end of the couch, like 2.5 times. Keep him well fed, and that's it. But I remember he was on the Focus, had a big old head on the show, and basically, because Jake's sitting there on the end of the interview, Jake Snake is taking up the rest, and Crazy Two's there, so nice, like it's like a four-plot, like he's just straight and this, he's kind of coming along with this, or like you can see him kind of hissing a little bit to the other end of the mouth, and then Jake, Jake with his towel on the head, but he's like, I remember he never broke a character, had a big old head, he was just real calm, basically collected, and whatever, Crazy Two's loud and crazy that, or anyone's a little jumpy or anything like that, that's kind of hissing a little bit, somebody keep him Jake with his towel on the head, but he's like, I remember he's so, but also the other thing too is that other than basically collected, the rest of his approach in the ring was whatever he thought his rest, crazy, almost like, it's almost kind of like he's without shattering that or anyone moved around and ran, like that's a lot of guys, but he's like, I remember he's so, also kind of a Michael Myers, other than the kind of deal, Jake's big, I mean, he is, but in his prime, he was all of 6'5", 270. He wasn't in that time, he was kind of middle of the pack. Mm-hmm. He was middle of the pack, but that's a big dude.
That's not a little person.
So he'd come in, he'd slide in. Edge stole that from him. He would slide into the ring, kind of just, and he would just be able to move it so that he didn't do a roll, like you could see, like he was sliding on his belly like a snake. And then he'd come in, and then Raven stole this from him. Stole this from Jake. He would be over he had the bag right on the outside of the corner of the ring, and he would sit,
just slump down.
He would just slump down, and then just pull himself up in kind of one motion, like his feet would be still on the ground while he was sitting there, and then he would just pull himself up with his arms, and like be right up on his feet, just roll like one smooth motion, and just little things like that he would do
to add into his character. That's very snake-like. It's weird movements. Yep. Weird for us, like human to move that way. That's it gets you just enough edgy. So yeah, no, definitely.
But you also, again, you see people that emulated him. And that's another thing too. You kind of start thinking about like great wrestlers and everything like that. You see people emulating his stuff. And especially like, any wrestler worth their salt wish they had his chops on the microphone.
Sure.
And they wish that he had like just his calmness. And you could also see WWE trying to introduce characters, like probably the closest like dead to rights emulation of it that I've seen was that failed attempt with Sean O'Hare. Remember where he had the vignettes?
Oh, right.
It was almost a bit like you're making a deal with the devil here, kind of, absolutely. kind of thing. And it was sort of that
talent, man.
Yeah. That again, kind of just sort of, but you'd see in his vignettes the way, like the kind of the angle of his eyes, and when he would smile and when he wouldn't, and little things like that. I'm guarantee you, basically they just said, okay, I want you to watch every promo Jake the Snake Roberts has ever done 100 times each.
Right. Just keep it going.
Just get that entrenched in your brain. And when you go out there, do that. Because you could just see, you could put it side by side and kind of see where it just starts to fit together. And it's like, yeah, that's Jake. I'm sitting there watching. I'm looking at it. I'm like, first of all, like to me, I was like, hey, this looks pretty, especially for him. That looked like a good way to go with it.
He had the look.
And I think he was a character that could do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And But I was watching and I'm sitting there just looking at it, and the way he looked at the interviewer, and then the way he would turn to the camera, and it was just real cool, calm, and collected. And again, kind of like when he would get that sparkle in his eyes, when he would smile and when he wouldn't. And I'm like, that's fucking Jake Roberts. That's that dead to rights, Jake Roberts.
Just disconnected enough from reality per se.
Right.
That there's, like something else is controlling this body that you see in front of me. There's something else. It's not a person. This is a vessel almost. Especially
and I think again,
what he was
and sort of and that psychological warfare. I think Jake Roberts is one of those guys that's a hell of a lot smarter than he realizes, because he didn't really have a solid education, and I'm sure he's never been tested. But Jake Roberts is a smart dude.
Right.
So to me, that brings me to number 3 on my list. Raven.
Got you.
Also a huge fan of Jake. Worked and trained with Jake Roberts quite a bit. I just remember when Raven came, and so now I remember my first introduction to Raven was in ECW.
I was going to ask if he was the ECW version of him or the one I saw.
That's where the character really developed.
Okay.
And I don't know if they called it Raven's Flock, but he had a version of it. Stevie Richards in ECW. Stevie Richard came over with Scott Levy, Raven, with the character. But that all actually started in ECW. Okay. And a lot of it, the same thing, the sitting in the corner, the DDT being his move. It was kind of like to me, especially being such a huge Jake the Snake fan, seeing Raven, and it was like he took what Jake started and then evolved it.
Sure.
And again, and he was always one of those guys, like he would tell you that, he didn't necessarily care about having a championship. You're going to see a through line here through most of the folks here. They didn't necessarily care about having a championship, even though they may have. More was concerned with putting on a good show, conveying a solid character, and again, kind of like we're talking about Vince McMahon. It's kind of like what's best for business right now. Right. What's best for this story? What's best for this, and how do we put together vignettes, and especially on Raven's side, coming in, and once he went into WCW, coming in from ECW, it was a big thing of, okay, how can we shock these people? Another reason why I got to put Raven on the list is that if I get a fellow member of Mensa and wrestling, I've got.
If you didn't say it, I was going to say it.
I got to throw him on the list but also, again, I was talking about Jake being smart. I mean, I think a lot of the guys on this list, and I think Arn Anderson's smarter, just generally smarter than a lot of people give him credit for. I guarantee. And he'd be the first person to tell you that he probably wouldn't in Mensa or anything like that. But I think Jake, I think, is someone that again, I think if he had been properly tested and educated to begin with, probably could have been there. Just because, again, just again, to be able to put together those promos and spit them out that quick. Some of them completely off the fly. Just it takes a mind. Sure. And Raven too. Like he didn't have the skill of the delivery. He didn't have Jake's voice. He wasn't as big as Jake. He didn't quite have that look going for him. But with Raven, he can come in and a lot of times he didn't necessarily have to say anything. He could just be sitting there while his people are beating the crap out of people. Sometimes beating the crap out of themselves. Yeah. And he would just be sitting there. You could see the wheels turning, and you could see just, he probably had like,
I set this up.
Well, as the character, but like as Scott Levy sitting there watching it, he was churning through like angles and avenues that he could take it. And he's like, oh, wait a minute, somebody accidentally like, oh man, there's probably 10 times if there's any kind of a legitimate like botch in a match from one of the, one of his goonies or whatever, he would turn that into a storyline.
Right.
Little things like just little stuff. He was always thinking just boom, 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 boom. So yeah, I had to put Raven on the list. There's a couple others I might have put in there, but I felt like I needed to put him in there because I remember again, kind of like the impact when they came into, he had an impact when he came into ECW, but especially when he came over to WCW, it was just the impact was palpable, and it just made sense for me to put him on there.
Gotcha. So far, just to recap, you have Jake the Snake, Arn Anderson, and Raven. Gotcha.
Number four. And again, not necessarily any given order. Not particular order.
Right.
But also going down kind of the impact, former ECW, and smart as hell, Mick Foley.
I knew it. That's I almost said his name earlier when you were talking about smart and in the ring and things like that, because he exemplifies it.
Most specifically, the Cactus Jack iteration of Mick Foley.
Sure.
That was Mick Foley at his most dangerous. That was like Mankind was crazy, but had a bit of shtick to him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
With the mask and everything else. It was, especially once before they gave him the sock and everything.
Sure.
He was seen. So we're playing it a little bit serious, but there was a bit of a gimmick to it. Cactus Jack just looks like some guy that would be sitting at the bar, some random rundown saloon somewhere in Texas.
That's that guy.
Oh yeah. But and like would just be he'd be the guy who would be sitting in the bar. He'd be keeping to himself. His head would be kind of twitching.
In his
that. But let's go back to the bar and find out how those people got there. like would be just sitting there, and like let's say a fight would break out, and what would happen is like, again, he'd be sitting there, he'd be kind of twitching, he'd kind of just be looking around, not really paying attention to what's going on, not really wanting anything to do with anybody, and then an errant bottle would hit him on the head.
Yeah.
And then that's how you find out exactly how all those people ended up in his basement.
Right.
Because he took them all out, and now and that's Cactus Jack. Also just and Mick is also one of those guys that's deceptively huge. He's about kind of in that 6'2" range, but about like 285. He's a big dude, and I think sometimes he was even closer to 300 in some of his Mankind days.
Yeah.
Which was a good thing he had all that padding.
Well, that I was just getting ready to say that was sort of by design a little bit, probably.
Cause good God, that man.
The stuff he would at any time we were talking about Vince earlier. Vince is always about business and making that money, and people are expendable, for lack of a better term, and you cash them in, cash them out. Mick Foley's one of those dudes that he was like, no, listen, man, for real, you need to stop. You need to
that, but also like this is also before wrestlers had any kind of form of health insurance or anything like that.
Yeah. He was doing this for the love of it.
Vince McMahon and the WWE, because of Vince McMahon, took care of Mick Foley because they saw that this guy was doing all this stuff, and he was doing it because it brought attention. It caused shock and awe.
Yeah.
And
off the biggest one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I was going to say for the business, for the love of the business. And let's talk about obviously the big thing, the 800-pound elephant in the room is the Hell in a Cell match with the Undertaker.
Absolutely.
And the idea of getting tossed off of the Hell in the Cell.
Yeah. First time. Let's all of this is new at the time. Yeah.
Let's pull behind the curtain a little bit here, folks. Undertaker did not toss Mick Foley off the top of that.
His hand was on him.
Exactly. That's not how wrestling works.
Right.
I mean, kind of help maybe guide him a little bit, kind of, give him a little bit push. Mick Foley jumped off the top of that damn cage.
Head first, basically.
Pretty much. Lost a tooth, had a tooth in his nose, and a tooth lost it through his lip. Yeah. And just the dude, like you'll see him too, where you'll see it if you'll see when his hair's shorter, but for the longest time he'd have the hair going down on one side of his face because the guy's pretty much lost all of his ear.
Yeah.
And then some of the matches again as Cactus Jack in ECW going up against Terry Funk.
Sure.
Who's another one that you kind of have to at least kind of speak to in terms of someone who just flat out just balls to the wall crazy wrestlers. Like Terry Funk is, and we were talking about Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat earlier, before the stream. And like Ric Flair would say that in his prime, his favorite person to wrestle was Steamboat. Mick Foley will tell you in his prime or whatever, Terry Funk to this day is his favorite wrestler, his favorite opponent, everything. So there's a bit of a crossover to Cactus Jack and Mick Foley. I'm sorry, Mick Foley / Cactus Jack and Terry Funk.
Right.
You kind of connect the two a little bit, but good old Chainsaw Charlie. You gotta talk about that. But Mick Foley, just all the if you can't respect Mick Foley, then I don't know if you can really call yourself a true to form wrestling fan.
Yeah, I don't think wrestling,
even if he's not your favorite.
Yeah.
Even if he's not your favorite, you got to respect that dude.
You respect that man. Absolutely.
100%. Okay. Hold on. Got to get another drink for this last one.
All right. So far we have Mick Foley was the most recent one on Jarrett's top 5.
Yes.
Arn Anderson led things off. Again, no particular order, but Arn Anderson, Raven with the Flock, and previous to the Flock, whatever they called him in ECW. Yeah. And, who am I? I just lost one.
Jake Snake. So it's Arn Anderson, Jake Snake Roberts,
how did I forget
Mick Foley, and Raven.
I had to
get a drink on this one. I had to get a drink on this one.
I was going to stop before I asked the next question because I want to hear who the fifth one is.
Well, I'm going to need a drink for this last one because I know where the conversation's going to go.
Okay. All right.
Number 5 is Bret Hart.
Bret Hart. Okay.
Number 5 is Bret Hart.
That took a turn.
Well, it's more of you think about Arn. It's like Arn and Bret are like the two straightest out of this list. Mick Foley and Raven are the two like really craziest. Jake's just kind of in the middle. Jake wasn't that nuts in the ring. He didn't. I mean, other than having the snake in the bag,
sure.
He didn't do a lot of serious hardcore type wrestling matches and things like that, like Raven and Mick would do. He's kind of played it more sinister, but Arn, I think, Arn, and that's why I've kind of bookended these two because they're, if you really, really think about them in terms of the way they approach wrestling, the way they handle things in the ring and out, Arn Anderson and Bret Hart are actually very similar. Serious to a fault.
I can see that.
Even more so on Bret's side of it.
Yeah.
But even Arn's been guilty of maybe being serious. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't necessarily tell you they were too serious, but were very, very serious. You You didn't mess with these guys. And that's the other thing too, is that, you know, Arn Anderson was a legitimate badass out of the ring.
Oh, sure. Right.
Hell, got into a fight with Sid Vicious with a pair of scissors, like as a shoot.
Does it?
Because he didn't
like at any point. What's the best salute? What's the best
going up against?
That's gonna happen?
Because I mean, Sid Vicious was like a legitimate 6'8", 6'9", 300 plus pounds, jacked. But Arn Anderson could not stand Sid because although Sid looked good and could move fairly well, and he really he's like. He would take off so he could play softball.
He wasn't serious
and he wasn't really serious about it. It's kind of like a lot of the things maybe people would knock Brock Lesnar for. Sure. You know, just it's like you got a guy Brock, like Arn.
He's
that guy. He's good. Yeah. And Sid to his credit was also. I mean, at one point in time. He was in the Four Horsemen. So he had spurts of it, but not enough. But Arn Anderson was a legitimate guy that was a legitimate tough MFer. Say the similar thing for Jake. I don't know if I'd want to get in a fight with Mick Foley.
No,
to be honest with you, it'd be hard. It'd be hard to get him there.
Right?
But I wouldn't. Yeah. No,
you don't want to fight truly crazy people because they don't. Usually people have a stop. Like, well, I won't go there. Usually people have. There's something wherever that level is. Somebody you have.
It's like right at that point where Mick would actually start having fun.
Yeah, it wasn't a fight anymore. It was like, this is kind of cool to watch this.
I don't know about Raven. Like Raven's the one guy on my list. I don't know for a fact that he may be a puss. I just don't know if he's like a legitimate hard ass, like a legitimate tough ass.
Sure.
Bret Hart was a legitimate tough ass.
Right.
Like you didn't F with Bret. He would knock your teeth out and then have your joints just completely twisted up before you could even know what the hell was going on.
Well, there was a reason that they had during the most famous thing that Bret ever did, which was get screwed. They told Shawn to get his butt out of there. Like,
yeah,
time to go, bro. Let's get to stepping. Yeah. If you watch the whole Montreal screw job, and if you know anything about wrestling,
talk to anybody that was there,
and if you
you hear enough stories of it, where you got to kind of listen to where things coalesce and overlap.
Sure.
Because so many people have so many different stories about it. Even a lot of people that weren't even there.
I'm not even sure at this point. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure at this point the people that were there fully remember what the heck actually happened. At this point, I think there's so many variations, so many stories, so many times. If you lie long enough, it becomes true.
Right.
It's that. I think that at this point, that might be about where it is.
But with Bret. So I remember my first memories of Bret was as tag team with the Hart Foundation, and this was a time in WWF where the tag team division was actually really hot.
Yeah.
And the Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who is definitely on my honorable mentions. Because also some of it kind of comes down to it's not 100% of it, but a good part of it too is like, if I were to be in the business, who would I want to be? In this case, Bret, it would be the Anvil. But Bret Hart as just, that tag team, again, just the matchup there, just the powerhouse Brood, who was a little bit crazy, with Bret Hart, who was just a pure technician, and he was just so smooth.
Yeah,
like, dude didn't miss a beat,
right.
Didn't miss a step. Like catch catch Bret Hart botching on camera.
Yeah.
Show me.
And for wrestling, again, not to go down the, it's scripted. Fake is the wrong term.
Things are good. Yeah, exactly. You still got to pull off the moves.
You still have to do it and not kill the other person.
Exactly.
And
making it look like you are.
But make it look like you are.
Yeah.
You're actually taking, usually in the move, you're actually taking the hit yourself. You're the one taking the bump that everybody's talking about.
The brunt of it, at least. Yeah.
And I think this is a credit to, and I don't mean to speak over here.
Go ahead.
Credit to Bret Hart. He knew what the real move was, not the scripted, we're going to do something and make it look a certain way. I mean, the real one. If you and I really were fighting, how I would do this move to inflict the most amount of pain onto you.
Right.
It's a different thing knowing that move, the real one, and not executing that move in the moment, and being able to still control
what it would mean, what it would look like,
narrative of the whole thing,
and especially like the locks, and different things, and it played on the other side too. He knew how to sell because he knew. So is the other thing again for folks who may not know about Bret Hart's history. The reason why he knows what it would feel like to have the move, either doing it to someone else or having it done to himself, is because he had it happen to him.
Yes.
He was part of the Hart family from Canada who ran Stampede Wrestling. Stu Hart, who ran what was affectionately known as the Dungeon, which was Stu Hart's basement. And he would, even into his upper 60s, would just wrench the hell out of people. Would just have them on the mat and would just be pulling the joint to the point of popping and hold it. And you would have to suffer through that because he would toughen you up.
Yeah.
And, so it's like, if you can get through this, you can deal with what's going to happen out there.
WWF, whatever it is at the time, it's not going to be a problem. Right.
No, I mean, and it's not, they wouldn't even do that. You wouldn't even do that far, even in Stampede. It was kind of the old football practice mentality. It's like, the ideal is that everything that you went through in practice, should be a hell of a lot tougher than what you're actually going to see in a game.
Sure. Absolutely.
So that when you go to play, it's like, it's not as, you're not as worn out.
Right.
You're not gassed, you are, able to play the whole game because you've already been through worse at least 3 times, if not 4 times that week. And so, that's kind of Stu's mentality. And then Bret brought that with him. Again, I think this is where some of the, and I think it's legitimate. Some of the complaints about Bret was that he took it too seriously, but it's like he took himself seriously. He took the business seriously, but he wasn't a prima donna. He was never really that. He, like, them talking about the Montreal screw job and everything. The biggest thing was that he just didn't want to lose the strap in Montreal.
Right.
Which back then was a big thing.
Sure.
It's not as big of a deal now necessarily.
Right, of course. Well, especially for the time, because you talk about the territories, right? So, and his father and things like that. There was much more in it than
it wasn't about him.
It wasn't Canadian. It wasn't just a Canadian thing. It wasn't just American. It wasn't that.
It was all those things. It was all those things rolled into one. But I think you hit on a good point. It was what he represented. What his Bret Hart, the character, represented for Canada and for his family, and yeah,
not just Bret.
And so
he was kind of carrying his dad and his brother, and his
whole
mom and
family
and friend down the street. Like everybody,
all of it,
that had always been supporting them.
And I think the other thing too was that, and again, Bret was leaving.
Right. His contract was over. Actually, he could have shown up.
He wouldn't have been in breach if he didn't show up on Raw. And I think that was on Vince's side of things. And people that talk about it, it's like, it's not so much that he didn't trust Bret, he didn't trust Eric Bischoff. And so, I mean, I don't blame him. But you're in a war, and Eric Bischoff would do some slimy shit. And
I do have a question. Had the whole Medusa thing, or Sandra Blaze, or whatever, I forget what her real name was.
Yep.
Had that happened?
It was the Lundra Blaze.
That happened already, right?
Yes.
So and just for anyone that doesn't know what heck I'm talking about, way back, we're talking 97, 6, 7, 8. So, well, no, it wasn't 98. It was probably 96.
96, 97, somewhere in there. Yeah. Kind of think.
So, is it Alondra? I always mess up her name.
So I can't remember which one she was.
She was
where
Medusa
she was
in WCW. That much I know.
Okay.
Because that's what I know her
as. She was Alundra Blaze.
Okay.
In the WWF.
So she was the women's champ.
Yep.
At the time in WWF, she was the women's champ. Her contract ended. She ended the contract being the champ, still having the belt. This is back in the day. They actually went around with. They carried their own belt. That was legitimately.
Yes.
They kept it was their belt. Legitimately their belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, it was all part of the kayfabe.
Airports. It went through. It was part of their luggage. That was their belt.
Yep.
She shows up on Monday Night Nitro. And she holds up the WWF belt, and she drops it in the trash. That was the women's belt. And at the time, women's wrestling, it wasn't.
It wasn't what it is now.
Not even kind of. I mean,
and I think Alundra was
within
the next bit ahead of her time, but it wasn't taken as seriously, and it was kind of funny. I think with a talent like Alundra and some of the ones that were developing around that time, again, they were ahead of their time.
Absolutely.
But they were kind of helping to build it up, and then Vince completely destroyed it with.
I was going to say not too long
the
after
Attitude Era.
The Attitude Era shows up in Raw and panty matches and pillow matches.
Johnny Ace is literally pulling talent from lingerie magazines. And when I say Johnny Ace, Johnny Ace is John Laurinaitis.
Yeah.
Also one of the guys indicted in this whole investigation around what's going on with Vince. Is the brother of Animal from the Road Warriors. Mm-hmm. Legion of Doom, oddly enough, because you want to talk about like how in the hell are you two even related, much less brothers? Completely different people.
Didn't his son play middle linebacker for some reason? Is it his son or brother, or was it another brother of theirs? Laurinaitis.
No, it was one of the sons. I think that was Animal's son.
Was Animal's son? Okay, I just remember.
I believe it was Animal's son that was the Laurinaitis that actually, played in the NFL.
Yeah, I want to say it was Rams for some reason. I'm picturing.
I think you're right,
but
I think you're right.
Yeah, total, but unrelated. But yeah,
completely unrelated. But you bring up a good point about Medusa. I can really see where Vince, and again, someone who doesn't even like to sneeze, really doesn't want to have that happening again.
Not only just happening, but happening with your belt, your top notch. That's what I was trying to differentiate. We were talking about the women's belt, which at the time was
the belt. This is not even the Intercontinental belt. This is the belt.
Yeah, you can't.
This is your belt. This really, and
especially
good, bad, or indifferent, it represented the company.
Yes.
This is also a time where it was the only heavyweight championship belt in the company.
Yeah, I was going to
say,
like
it's now where you have
that they have now, where there's two champions
on each
belts, brand, and all that stuff. It's not that.
Oh, you were born in Georgia. Hey, we'll do a Southeast belt.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because.
Yeah.
Interstate 95 belt.
Yeah, let's do that.
That would be a great belt, especially for like some of it, just to have the interstate belt and have the actual belt itself be the the Interstate 95. Like
Awesome.
you could actually, that would actually look like a decent belt.
It would, because it does have the it does.
It's kind of the shield kind of thing on it.
Man,
that would look like a pretty badass belt.
We might have to get the Getting Work I-95
actually,
belt.
Our logo doesn't look bad either. Our logo wouldn't like the way it looks like right now. It
does have the points and everything.
You can kind of make it, you can have it fit into a shield look. Anyway, back to Bret Hart. Before we go on a completely different
we're way off topic right
now. The Montreal Screwjob to me is a very interesting case for wrestling. The obvious bits of it aside, I find it very, very interesting because I can't blame either side.
No, that is true. I've always tried to pick one, and I can't exactly pick one.
Honestly, when you look at what's going on, when you're looking at what's happening, if I put myself in their shoes, I can't fault anybody. The optics didn't look good for the WWE.
Sure.
But in a way, it didn't matter because it's wrestling.
Well, not only that, but
the company screwed them over.
Yeah.
And
without that, and the Vince McMahon character, the Mr. McMahon character.
Yes.
Appears. He's not that commentator we were talking about earlier. He's that commentator on
the
side.
And he's not behind the scenes. He's not even like kind of, he sort of moved away from that a little bit. People sort of get a better view of what was going on with him. But they didn't know like that. Stone Cold still would have happened, but we would have missed out on all of that great where the head of the company was the heel.
Right.
And that going back and forth and just the pure shenanigans that ensued because of it. I think Stone Cold
did the Attitude Era almost start that night?
It definitely planted the seed. It definitely planted the seed. If anything else, it was moving there. But I think this really helped to solidify it. And then especially having it where again, Vince McMahon had no reason to hold back on the bad guy character. He had no reason.
None.
All you got, you want me to be the bad, kind of like again, it's so funny, kind of goes to like the Scott Hall talking to Vince McMahon, but like you flip it on its head and say, okay, hey, you want to talk to the bad guy? Say hello to the bad guy.
Say hello.
Because I mean, it's just he's like, screw it. All right, you guys want to hate me? All right, let's go all in on this.
Lean into it, man. Lean into it.
and why the hell not? Like, why wouldn't you? Why would not?
What's the point of wrestling? Getting butts in the seats and getting on TV. That's what I was saying. Would Stone Cold, without him already being the established bad guy, does the impact of Stone Cold, the anti-hero, anti-establishment guy, resonate?
It wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have been the same. I think Stone Cold had enough attitude himself.
Sure. I don't mean he would have been just nobody, but the whole
he would have, but it wouldn't have been as explosive as it was,
right?
Because being able to play off of that and the beauty of it, the beauty of that, especially for Vince, the overall booking, and for Steve Austin, was that you could pretty much toss any other wrestler that wasn't already tied to something else, or you could bring it in, but it basically gave them carte blanche to put Steve against anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big thing there, because then you didn't really have to explain it. It was just like, okay, this is who Vince is throwing at you, because Vince wasn't a wrestler.
Right.
He's having a whole feud with someone who's not even a wrestler, and hell, I mean, actually is the man behind the curtain leading the whole damn thing.
Truly,
so he could literally just toss anybody into it. It was a smorgasbord. I mean, just it wrote itself. So in that way, I agree. it wouldn't have been the same. They could have still introduced it. They could have come up with something, but this
was so organic.
This was something. Yeah, this was something where it was like, okay, and then Bret goes over to WCW and just gets buried.
Right. Because they don't know.
Because I mean, to get back to Bret though,
right?
Bret was legitimate, had the pedigree.
Also, sorry,
no,
by the time Bret went to WCW, he was burnt. I mean, he was that. This is where the taking it too seriously is not the wrong. It's important to know if someone came to you and basically insulted you, insulted your mama, insulted your dad, insulted your family, your heritage, your everything in a certain business, and just kicked you out the door. Yeah, you might go to the next job, and it may be in the same business. And in fact, if it is in the same business, it's just not gonna. You're gonna.
Yeah, I think. I mean, and I think it was
good too.
Right. Bret. I think also one of the biggest things, and one of the things we have to talk about too, is to close things out. But we'd be remiss not to talk about some of Bret's health issues.
Right.
Later down the road.
He run into those before. I don't think he had gotten that. He didn't get that until he went to WCW. And I know Bill Goldberg was the one that basically ended his career because he kicked him in the head.
Yeah, that didn't help things. There was at some point an accident, and then there was a stroke, and then there was it was just a comedy of errors after the fact.
Yeah.
That unfortunately really put Bret in a bad position, because if you think about it, like, considering, later on when, DX and everything was going, that was well after the long feud that Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not talking about the lead singer of Poison. Sorry.
I was gonna say Poison and Metallica were beefing.
It's just putting those two together. It was like, got a Bret and a Michaels. It's like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
But having like all that, and you consider the different runs that Shawn had, that like outside of some of that other like external health issues, even some stuff that came from outside of wrestling, Bret could have been in the mix.
Sure.
He could have come back to the WWE as an older but still legitimate wrestler, because Bret was in freaking crazy shape too.
Oh, right.
I mean, so
the stroke was really the stroke in the accident.
That was a big thing. That was a big. That was it. Just never, like, you couldn't get back from that.
And
it took them really so long.
All of the reasons, a lot of the animosity. We're gonna have to do our own separate Vince McMahon thing, but it also added to that, because especially if you're around wrestling, all of this. Real life, not kayfabe anything. Real life, since Vince McMahon orchestrated, or whoever orchestrated, but he went along with, whoever's the architect, whatever. Since that moment, what has happened to an overall good guy, as far as family man, he's out there, that type of thing. Well, let's see. Yeah. He's gotten kicked in the head and gotten a concussion. His career is pretty much over. Oh, he had a bad accident. Oh, yeah, he now's had a stroke. And somewhere not too awful long after this as well, his brother dies in the ring, no less. It's not
under Vince McMahon's wing. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
So all of that happens within 5 years of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, if for the man to be sane at all, that's a lot. That's a lot. Your career, your family, and money and everything else, like all of that other stuff goes on to it. I know there's some extracurricular activities as far as being married and things like that. There were some, as a certain person that'll be on my list said, some sunny days that went along with it. But there's a lot of that. the stuff that he went through from Montreal Screwjob the next 5 years or so, the fact that he even considers being around wrestling or dealing with any of the fans or anything else for that matter is surprising. So, and a testament to really kind of the person he is deep
down. Oh yeah. No, I mean, I'll leave it at that. I think that, but again, but Bret again, especially similar to Arn and Jake, and Foley, and maybe a little bit less or so on Raven's part, but these are guys that, again, to look at the time that they were doing their part, each of them helped to legitimize wrestling in certain forms of fashion. Again, some less than others, but especially when you look at Bret Hart and Arn Anderson, the two of them did everything they can to go out every single night, work their ass off,
right,
and make it all look real.
Yeah, no,
and
absolutely.
just and as legitimate as possible, and really love the business. It's hard to say anybody could possibly love the business more than Mick Foley, but
right.
I mean, pretty damn close. Just as far as just their overall professionalism, and Bret, it's a no-brainer. Jake too. Actually, Jake's a third generation wrestler. His dad. You might hear of Grizzly Smith. You might hear that name tossed around, especially talking about like some of the Southern territories and stuff like that. Grizzly Smith is Jake the Snake Roberts' dad. So he also comes from a long history too, and so they grew up with it. They really understand it.
Sure.
So yep, that's my list.
All right. So who's your 5 again? We'll do the quick wrap up here.
Okay. I started with, again, no particular order as far as like absolute favorites, but it's Arn Anderson, Jake the Snake Roberts, Mick Foley, specifically the Cactus Jack iteration of it, Raven, and then topping it off with Bret Hart.
Gotcha.
That's my list, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Corbin. Good to see you, buddy. I see Corbin's down
What's going on, Corbin?
How's it going, buddy? Yeah, we're jumped over here to YouTube. We're doing some wrestling talk, our top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. So we're going to do a quick break, and
that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
it's probably a good spot. And when we come back, we'll start going into my top 5 as well. We'll probably have we won't have any crossover. I will say these will be all new for us to discuss, but maybe that last one might have
definitely some overlap in terms of clashing and
right. Yeah. So but for right now, this is Getting Work. We're gonna do a quick pause, and we'll be back in a little bit.
Sounds good. Be back, everybody.
coming for the throne. I'm coming for the throne. So you wanna be my enemy? You should've known I'd never kiss the rain. Ice runs in my veins, won't play it safe. I don't belong with your nobility. Who died and made you king of anything? You think that I'm insane, it's your mistake. Kingdoms rise and fall, I've come to take it all. I'll take it, I've come to take it. Kingdoms rise and fall, I've come to take it all. I'll take it all. A storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. I'm coming for the throne. I'm coming for the throne.
All right. Welcome back. So, we left off with Jarrett's top 5, his favorite. We're going to jump over to my top 5 in no particular order. Well, I say that, but it's going to be an order. I just haven't quite figured out which order it's going to be yet. Making it up as we go. And all right, I guess we'll start at the number 5. We'll start at 5. So that's how you're supposed to do these, right? It's supposed to be the top 5.
Yeah, kind of sort of supposed to be sort of
top 5.
You talk about your very like your number one last.
Jump over to my top 5. Okay. All right. So in no particular order, well, I say that, but I'm probably talking about order. I just haven't quite figured out which. So I will start with this. I'm making it up as we go. Have a real trouble. All right. I guess having back started back. Cut it off at 5. 5 was a tough. So that's how you're supposed to do these, right? Supposed to be the
kind of sort of supposed to be sort of
top 5.
You talk about your very like your number one last.
So you're about to see. So honestly, what you're going to see in our top 5 is the difference between Jarrett and I. As far as making it up as they go. And all right, I guess having back cut it off. I said The Rock. I'm pretty sure The Rock is not on there. So that's how you're supposed to be top 5. Supposed to be
kind of sort of supposed to be sort of top 5. Yeah, talk about your very like your number one.
Totally different style. So you're about to see. So he's an honorable. What you're going to see in our top 5 is I might surprise difference between Jarrett and I. As far as making it up as they go. And all right, I guess having back cut it off. I said The Rock. I'm pretty sure The Rock is not on there. So I'm going Scott Hall.
And sort of supposed to be sort of yeah. Talk about your very like your number one.
Totally different style. So you're about to see. So he's an honorable. What you're going to see in our top 5 is I might surprise different.
Oh yeah.
All the little things behind it as they go. And all right, I guess I said The Rock.
Oh yeah.
I'm going Scott Hall.
And sort of supposed to be sort of yeah. Talk about your very like your number one.
So you're about to see. So he's an honorable. What you're going to see in our top 5 is I might surprise different.
Oh yeah.
All the little things behind it as they go. I said The Rock. I'm going Scott Hall.
Yeah, talk about your favorite. That hurts my heart. That just hurts my heart because what a character. Oh yeah. All the little things. All the vignettes. Yeah, talk about your favorite. That hurts my heart. That just hurts my heart. But yeah. What a character. Oh yeah. I think your audio dropped out. I can hear you. Corbin was saying it's still good, Corbin. Back on your end. Yeah, talk about your favorite. That hurts my heart. That just hurts my heart. But yeah. What a they lie.
This is how you know you're live streaming.
Yep.
All the fun. Windows Audio, people. Good times.
But it like I said, it dropped out for me too on my end a little bit, but now it's back. So I would bet we're good.
Okay. Well, cool. It may have been I was streaming. Anyhow, so Scott Hall, the bad guy, he is going to be my number 5. Like I said, Rock was honorable mention. I really wanted to get Rock in there, but so it'll be Scott Hall. Sorry, I'm pausing just to take a look, seeing if anything.
Okay, now he says now it's fixed.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
I appreciate that. Thank you. By the way, anybody that hops on and there's something funky going on with, please let us know. We are not above that. We
And we're also we're recently hopping into YouTube from Twitch. So there's different things, and also Ian running the stream.
I'm running the stream on this end.
So we're just trying to do all the things,
all the changes. Let's see, this was working. This is like the one thing. Let's just change all that. Let's forget
just break it off.
Yeah, but no, Scott Hall is going to be number 5 for me.
So really,
so where I know Scott Hall, let me as far as and then I want you to fill in the back story because honestly, you probably even know that better than I do, even though he's in my top 5. Scott Hall for me is NWO. He is pure and unadulterated NWO. He's one of the big 3. He's one of the guys that started it, and really that's the point where I'm getting back into wrestling. NWO was pretty hot at that point, and it was just the 3 of them. And Scott Hall was always the one I paid attention to. Nash was also there. Like, I don't want to make it sound like he's a bum because he's not. I didn't like Hogan. Hogan always reminded.
Yeah. We'll go down a whole nother rabbit hole. We start talking about Hogan.
Let's just skip the whole Hogan thing. Anyhow, I knew the guy that made the group work and was the worker of the group was not either of the first 2 guys I just mentioned. So at any time in this particular way, I might be pulling from one of your mantras of the worker, the heart, the guy that's the glue guy, maybe not the front facing one. But Scott, in his own right, was a front-facing one. He's the guy that came through the crowd. Yeah, he's the guy that got everybody's attention. That he was
the whole package.
Bring somebody, but he
was the
Scott
whole
Hall.
Package, and
he had the brain for it too.
Right.
He's the one that's okay. Hogan, you made me the face, but do this, dum dum. that type of thing. So so Scott Hall, number 5 for me. So he's there.
So I think so first when you said Scott Hall, it actually wasn't that surprised. I guess it is a bit more surprising without seeing the Razor Ramon character.
Right.
But if you go back to it, because I'm like, okay, this guy's got Ian written all over him. Just again, the cool, he's just that cool, suave character. The machismo. He's got just, Scott Hall exuded just that, even without Razor Ramon, just exuded that confidence and just, again, kind of that, I'm, you never know when I'm going to turn around and do something a little silly, a little bad, a little,
You don't know how this is going to go. This could go either way.
No, it's like I might just turn around and send somebody to the hospital, But Scott Hall, big Scott Hall, coming out of the AWA, was just a beast of a man, and you'd see him in some of the older stuff that he was doing. You could see he's a legitimate 6'7".
Okay, that's what I thought. I was gonna say it was.
I mean, he's again in like 280, 270, 280, and you could see, especially once he gets into his Razor Ramon days and carrying on, he's jacked, ripped, built.
Yes. There was no question the man was in shape. Like he had some troubles down, later in his career, and probably at the end of his career and stuff like that, where things were a bit different. But no, Scott Hall was in shape. He was on it. He knew he could get on the mic. He could be the guy that's just doing the mind stuff, where you're watching him over in the corner. And he had that charisma. He had the charisma that every wrestler wants. For everybody, you were watching what he was doing when you weren't supposed to be watching what he was doing. It was
exactly. He always kind of had that presence.
What was happening with him? And that's honestly why I'm keeping him I put him in my top 5 for that reason. I look back, and especially because I just started thinking about it. I was like, a lot of my favorite memories and things like that, as far as wrestling goes, he's there. He just kept popping up. Maybe he was the bad guy. In fact, a lot of times he was, but I mean, that was his character, right? Bad guys never die. Yeah. So let's kind
of talk a little bit about, get more behind the scenes here with Scott Hall, but also just some of the stuff that came up. One of the first ladder matches in the WWE with Shawn Michaels.
Right. Click member.
member of the clique, and probably one of the I'd say the most business savvy member of it. Also one of the best workers in the group, second probably only to Shawn Michaels in the ring. And you could kind of argue where you want to put 1, 2, 3 Kid / X-Pac as far as like just work in the ring, you know. Just capability, just what they call a good hand.
Right.
Scott Hall had all that in spades. Right, yeah. And also, I mean, it's also a little bit different because he was a big guy, so we had to work differently.
Well, that could be and it can be a benefit and a hindrance too. It can be a benefit as in you're strong enough to do it. You know, like there's certain moves that Shawn couldn't do if he wanted to without killing somebody. Whereas
there's certain moves Scott Hall couldn't do either because he just couldn't.
He couldn't do it.
But also again, it just didn't. And even if he could, it didn't make sense for him to.
No.
You know, he didn't quite invent, but he really helped to develop the Goldust character. He was one of the first feuds that Goldust that Dustin Rhodes had when he came out as Goldust. And so he like working with Dustin, and he was basically the one that just said, dude, just go 100% with it.
Yeah.
Just own it. Just feet. And he would like literally kind of give him, says, hey man, just do this. And Dustin would be like, and just do it. And Goldust would do something a little, a little flamboyant, a little sugary, had a little sugar on it. But Scott Hall was a part of that. One, probably helping him, giving him ideas, but also just give him the confidence of it, of just kind of saying, I'm sure even Scott Hall was kind of like, man, I don't know, but if we're gonna do the thing, let's go full on. Let's do it, because
you want it.
The boss man says this is what we're doing.
Right.
Exactly. The worst thing you can do is half-ass it.
Oh my goodness, because then everybody,
and just you don't have a chance,
and everybody sees it.
You have no chance.
All of the characters, all the ones that I ever think of, that's where that believability. I have to be able to suspend my belief in. Okay, yes, I know it's scripted, but maybe, maybe
make you forget about that fact.
Yeah, I'm watching.
While you're watching it.
Yeah, and that's really what. And with him, you always did.
Yep.
Even there was that. So
one of the again, probably major drivers of the clique. And there's other stories I just can't quite remember off the top of my head.
Sure.
About his impact with whom he wrestled with, and just ideas, and just sort of his take on the business, and how to do things around that kind of stuff, the creative side of things. I think he would have made an incredible creative behind the scenes. Could really come up with some good stories and how to do things. But then when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash moved over to WCW, of course, because of the way the contracts hit, Scott Hall was the first person to show up.
Right. Comes through the crowd.
And he was the one that came through the crowd. Was still doing a little bit of the Razor Ramon shtick.
Yeah.
Wearing the jean vest and the jean pants.
They
kind of,
to seem like he was invading.
Razor Ramon coming from
Razor Ramon. It wasn't Scott Hall. It was Razor Ramon.
It wasn't until the WWE threw the lawyers at it that they had to change it up, which I think it was fucked, because then, it helped with WCW. It kind of really took a stance of trying to minimize the gimmicks.
Yeah.
Or make them as realistic as possible too. Sure. And so it made sense for them to come in as Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, as opposed to say Diesel or exactly.
The NWO was all about realism.
Yeah,
it was believable that these jokers showed up from that other rival company over there. It was believable. I especially for the time, you got to remember that. I mean, it's like around, but it's not. There's not Twitter.
Like,
all the social media.
Haven't you heard? My shit don't stink, son.
Yeah.
I'm like, go check. I dropped one right there. Go ahead. I'll wait. But I mean, but like he legit like and again a major driving force for the NWO behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And again, kind of more of that front face, and just every monologue, if he was there, it just comes off with "Hey yo."
Oh yeah.
I mean, it started with. Oh, I know. We still,
if we see each other for the first time and it's been a while,
or if we're one to check to see if someone's online, it's just hey yo.
That's it. I mean, honestly, we just need to start our stream with a survey time, and then we'll just go full on in.
I'm gonna do a little survey here,
Yeah.
As far as like placement, Scott Hall was definitely one. You talk about like hard to really kind of pin it down to 5. And I was trying to find a through line. Scott Hall could very easily be in my top 5. Just if I'd have put the list down maybe 20 minutes sooner or 30 minutes later, you know what I mean? He could have been in that. He could have been right there. Because of that, again, what you're talking about, just the impact. He created the Sting Crow character.
Yeah, exactly.
He invented it. And Sting was recovering.
He was out
from some stuff, and he was able to, and it worked out to where he could have come back even sooner, but he was able to show up and hang out in the rafters. And so it was Scott Hall that kind of says like, and I think Sting was looking for a change, and I think also WCW was looking for a change.
He was,
and so
he was still at that point Surfer Sting. Not quite Surfer Sting, but he was. He was still Surfer Sting. It was blonde hair, spiky. Yeah. Okay.
Well, even before then, he did. Steve Burton, Borden. I mean, I'm sorry. Did actually darken his hair.
Yeah.
And actually had it grow a little bit longer. Right. But he was still in the Surfer Sting makeup and the Surfer Sting tights and all of that. He was still darker, that. You're right. A little bit. And I think part of it was, again, kind of just the direction that WCW was looking to go.
Sure.
And was trying to make him a little bit more edgier. Mm-hmm. But it was Scott Hall that basically come in. Again, it's like, if you're gonna do it, let's go 100%.
Sure.
And then brought up the Crow character, and Brandon Lee and the makeup and the dark get up and everything else, and just sort of this, to be sort of this, for Sting to be this ominous threat, literally looming in the shadows.
Right.
It was Scott Hall that had the idea. It's like, you need to come back different and come back, threatening. And so with a group like that, who would make sense? Well, one, Sting personally would make sense, but also with incorporating that Crow character and the darker look, flying down from the rafters and everything else. I mean, to be able to take on a faction like that, there almost had to be kind of a stigma. It's like, we can't kill you.
Almost a little supernatural.
A little bit. They didn't, and I think they did it right. It was just that hint, that hint of it. But it's like, we can't kill you.
Yeah.
Like, what does it matter that we've got like 50 people and the boss and the boss and the boss man on our side and all this stuff? Mm-hmm. If you can come in here with a baseball bat and just knock us all down. And I think Scott Hall was a big component of that, and just so many little things that he's had his fingers on and suggestions. And I think also one of the things was like, very serious about the business. Did have, especially when he was probably around more like Kevin Nash and Shawn, he'd act a certain way. But if you got him away from them, just a real, just down to earth dude that just like loved wrestling to the core.
Yeah.
Had his demons. But yeah, he got it.
Yeah.
He had it. Yeah. He had his demons, and I think a big piece of it, like the reason why he went so full bore into wrestling was because it helped him. It was the thing that helped him cope with a lot of his demons.
Yeah.
He always said that once he got into the ring, everything was 100.
Yeah.
It was
the worst
getting
that
out of the ring.
Doing. No, absolutely. Sorry, let me speak over.
No. Go ahead.
One of the worst things that I think that WCW ever did was where they had him playing the drunk character.
Yeah.
Because during that time, it wasn't a character.
Yeah, and he wasn't able to get away from it. No. And I think that he
where he was supposed to be drunk on screen, in case anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about. There was a moment in WCW where they actually have Scott Hall coming out. To this day, I'll be honest with you, I'm not so sure he wasn't really actually drunk. He's supposed to be drunk. And when I say he's supposed to be drunk, he's coming out with the Red Solo cup and he's drinking from it and he's stumbling around.
Right.
And it was all during the same time that he was legitimately
fighting with that. Yeah.
I mean, not
in and out of rehab.
Kayfabing, not none of that.
Yeah.
Like these are legitimate times, and they basically made fun of it. That's probably one of the worst things that I saw.
And even Nash said himself that was a Vince Russo thing.
Of course.
God, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Jim Cornette calls him shit stain, and I agree. But yeah, it's just completely uncouth, and even Nash was just kind of like, man, this is crazy. We really shouldn't be doing this.
I mean, I'm all for realism. Like, honestly, between the two of us, I like the you got the realism where I can suspend my disbelief and see what's really happening out there, and I don't need to know that.
And unfortunately, it happens. It does happen maybe even a little bit too much in wrestling, where there's certain stories you can take advantage of and be able to work with it. The whole thing, the love triangle between Edge and Lita and Matt Hardy. I mean, the three of them, it was tough, but the three of them were actually professional enough and were actually like, yes, this makes sense.
Talking about the Hardys, we'll jump briefly. Over to them. Now, the stuff with Jeff, right? Jeff Hardy is in and out of rehab every other week or so. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, it's just the fact of the matter. He struggles with a lot of demons. And they bring it up on TV. Christian Cage, I think, right now is the one that brings it up on TV. So, if it was anyone else, if it was anyone other than Christian Cage who was Christian in WWE, that type of thing, if it was anyone else,
that history and that,
I would question what's happening. But he's behind the scenes. Hey, Jeff, like they're actually all know each other. They've worked with each other a long time. They know, I don't know how boson buddies.
They don't have to be best friends, but they have that professional relationship and definitely respect each other.
Sure, right.
So I don't think that's a problem at all.
No.
Yeah, I think Jeff, different. A lot of it's his body, but so Scott Hall. So, and I don't know if you know the story, but for folks who don't know, the biggest thing and the reason why Scott Hall had the demons that he has is because it was early on in his wrestling days. I think it was either a bar fight that went bad or someone tried to mug him. Someone approached him with a gun, and Scott Hall grabbed it and was kind of trying to wrestle it away from him, the attacker, and the gun went off and actually shot and killed the attacker. So Scott has always deep down never really internalized that and never really truly accepted the fact that he's it really truly wasn't entirely his fault.
Sure.
And so
I didn't know that.
that's the and I'm sure there's maybe other things, and I mean maybe because of that, I'm sure there's spiraling.
Well,
in terms of just how he interacted with people personally and things like that. I'm sure there was some issues there, but a big portion of his demons and everything is just was a never ending guilt around that. And so
it's hard sometimes. I mean, nothing's worse than not being able to get the voices in your head to be quiet. Because at the end of the day, we all come home. We all are by ourselves at some point. And if you can't get that's the scariest time.
Oh, yeah.
Those voices just talk to you. And I don't mean the crazy, the Randy Orton stuff or anything like that. I mean,
no.
Where sometimes you can't get them to go quiet. So, anyhow, that's
again, definitely one of a kind talent, gone way too quickly.
If you go back to watch Scott Hall, I had to do it. I will admit, like I said, I came in, Scott Hall was NWO. So that's how I got introduced to Scott Hall. Go back and watch the bad guy where he with his bad Cuban accent. But honestly,
I would say especially like any of his and you got again just to kind of help to kind of solidify why the members of the clique were who they were.
Yeah.
Watch the matches between him and Shawn Michaels and him and then 1 2 3 Kid,
X-Pac, whatever.
And you also think about him, the fact if you want a master class of a big man having to work with a smaller guy.
Yeah, because X-Pac, how tall is X-Pac? X-Pac's little.
X-Pac's about the size.
Big, but X-Pac
I think X-Pac might be a little bit taller than Shawn, but Shawn's more built and actually might be a little bit heavier than him. They're either right about the same height or X-Pac's just a smidge taller.
X-Pac, rather. They're both Shawn. That threw me off.
Shawn Waltman and Shawn Hickenbottom
is 6'1".
Michael Hickenbottom.
Shawn Hickenbottom is also 6'1". Yeah, so they're the same.
Okay,
for some
so they're about the same height.
He was
but you can see, but also again, you saw Shawn going up against guys that were his size or closer to his size more often. Whereas probably like some of the best wrestling from 1 2 3 Kid was him going up against bigger guys, and especially Scott Hall. And like I said, if you want to see a masterclass as a big guy working with smaller wrestlers and how to do it and how to appropriately, especially as a big man taking moves. It's easy to do a move to a small guy.
Pick a guy, right.
But to actually take the moves from the small guy and then how to work the ring psychology and the mechanics of it and everything else, I mean, just masterfully done. One of the best in the business to be able to effectively work matches with pretty much anybody you put him in the ring with,
and to get guys over. He was okay being the guy that got other guys over, and that is not
100%
a strong suit of a lot of star wrestlers. I believe possibly one of the other guys that I have on my list. I'm just gonna say,
right? Yep.
Yeah, this may be the only guy that I have on my list that is that guy. So,
okay, clear choice, great choice. I mean, you can't argue that one.
So, that is Scott Hall. That is number 5. I think I'm gonna catch Jarrett a little bit off guard with number 4.
Okay,
but I had to give it a lot of thought. I had to internalize it and think about along the lines of Scott Hall, guys that impacted stuff that I was watching, that I was enjoying, and they were always there. That's so key to this next person. So very, very key to this next person. You know who it is, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Woo! Okay, so
check this right.
Rick, there it is. Yeah, so Ric Flair.
Put up on screen, but yeah.
You don't know how much of a thing this is, to be honest with you. Everybody that's watching on YouTube and will load up Twitch and stuff like that. You don't understand.
I've turned them around.
You don't understand how big of a deal. Mutant Jarrett's mic. No. Don't understand how big of a deal this is. No, legitimately. So, first get into wrestling. I kind of want to preface it again. I go back to what we talked about earlier. When did Ian get into wrestling? I started watching. I'd sneak and watch wrestling on Sunday at noon. Saturday at noon. Jump on to watch. I say sneak because my folks were not into wrestling in any way, shape, or form. Sorry, Mom. Sorry. Love you. But yeah, so I was sneaking watching some wrestling. And Surfer Sting was the guy. That was my boy. And I was the one I was pulling for, and he was always getting screwed over by the dastardly Four Horsemen and Ric Flair, specifically Ric Flair. He was always around. And the more I've looked at it, and the more stuff that Jarrett has indoctrinated me with, is he was always around. He was the one that is affecting Sting to get the rise that he gets. He is the one that all along the way is sort of always the bad guy. For someone to shine, you almost need someone shining a light on them in the dark, being the bad guy. That's Ric Flair. And so for that reason, Ric Flair has cracked. Ric Flair is actually the one that bumped Rock. Because I had Rock in here, and I was like, I just can't. For the rest of the people that you'll see on this list, you'll see Ric Flair's fingerprints are on, maybe not all of them, but two of them for sure.
It definitely had an impact and some level of influence too, because you just can't. You can't be the, kind of and so again, this is kind of where like the history aspect of things comes into play. And you want to talk about like, working with people, getting people over, putting the right stories together and things like that. Ric Flair was NWA champion. I mean, that's well known. But what may not be as well known is exactly what that job meant. That meant traveling the country for months on end without a day off, outside of just the time it takes to drive someplace, and doing shows as the champion.
That whole.
But it would be defended.
Yeah.
Not as much.
No.
I mean,
that was the character, but in the time period, that wasn't the thing that was
No.
What's going on, Sith?
Hey, what's
How
up?
you doing,
What's
man?
up, Sith? No, you don't. I don't know if YouTube has the same. We'll have to see.
Points. Is that a thing?
Like an equivalent to it. But what that meant was going to different territories. You're bringing the belt. You're not defending it there.
No.
Because
again,
you're
it's traveling with this actual belt. You are traveling.
But you're basically a walking advertisement for the NWA, and he was perfect for that because he was just good enough. And you want to talk about like about Scott Hall, like again, like shine a light, putting people over, and because of the nature of his character, he could still win, but he would win by some kind of shenanigan.
Sure.
There'd be some cheat move, or he'd have someone at his side or in his corner, a manager, J.J. Dillon, whomever it was, that would help him cheat. So then you'd have that face guy ended up looking better in the match. And that's basically a good part of what he would do. And then he would have the championship matches with like the Ricky Steamboats and stuff like that. And ultimately, really help to drive the territories and really help to, drive the wrestling business.
Sure.
Along several different states, countries, territories, all over the damn place, and different countries just represent that and be that person. And Ric Flair had no problems with it, and that meant eating a lot of shit in the ring.
This is a really
and then
different wrestling business at that time.
Yes, exactly.
Really different
100, absolutely, 100% different. And
this is territories by every stretch of the imagination. Territories. Hey, what's going on, Sid? All right, let me do the quick acknowledgement.
Can they hear my my sound effects on there? Can they hear my stuff? Because
when you hit the button, let's see. If I see the little volume, if I see something move, then yes. If not, then no.
Okay, I'm gonna
to test that.
I'll test with something that I at least know is there. Let me do this one.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Yes, that comes. It comes
does.
through, so
Okay.
I see the bar moving. Yeah.
Okay.
It's live YouTube, people. We're learning.
Sis said he didn't hear it. I don't know.
You didn't? Oh, it's delayed. It'll probably be a delay.
That's true. Yeah, you're waiting until Well, he should be seeing the delay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Or heard it at least.
I can't remember where chat comes in. I haven't learned that part yet. I'm watching it, trying to get. So you can't hear it. Okay. All right. Well, we'll work on that. I see it on my end showing up, so we'll have to work on.
Okay.
Where that's coming through
in OBS.
Yeah.
Okay. But the last thing I'll say about it too is given the time that you came into wrestling, the fact that you did not like Ric Flair meant that he did his job.
That's exactly right. Yes, that is exactly why I determined and I went ahead and put him on this list because of that. I, to this day, do not like Ric Flair. Let me be clear about what I'm saying. I do not like Ric Flair. The character. I'm not talking about the person. But I do not like
the character Ric Flair. Yeah.
You will notice why I don't like Ric Flair by who's else is on this list that we're going to get to. I do not like him. That is who I came in watching, and he cheated every single week. I couldn't stand it. So, to this day, that little kid in me is like, we hate him. He sucks. He doesn't know how to win. He's always a champion. He always cheats. Yeah. So, which is ironic because I like some other people.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
so, Eddie Guerrero. I've got to mention Eddie. Eddie was also one of the ones I was debating putting on here. I lie, I cheat, I steal. You gotta kind of have like the bad guy.
I mean, and I think that again, it's
who was number 5? Right,
Scott Hall,
right,
the bad guy. I mean, it's really something that you gotta kind of look at holistically, because I think again, if he wasn't facing the guy that became your favorite wrestler, a lot of the different stuff, I could see you liking Ric Flair, especially like in just some of the promos where it's just that like just
stuff that I didn't see at
as much.
So,
right. And so that's the other thing too, is that, just some of the stuff that he kind of made parodies of later on. If you saw some of the original interviews, some of the original promos and stuff like that, where Flair would just go off. And then you could see Arn would put his hand on Rick's shoulder.
Breathe in.
Just kind of just, no. He knew there was no calming him down. But what Arn was going to do was just, he's like, I'm going to put my hand on your shoulder. You're going to hand me the mic. And you're going to go off. And Arn would be given this clear, calm, collected, and again, kind of just, but still dangerous. Like, you don't know what you've gotten yourself into, son.
Yeah.
and Rick would be in the back.
You may not understand what the heck's happening behind me right now.
Just doing the thing and just going off and like messing with his clothes, just going completely insane. And all the while, Arn and the other guys are kind of looking around. Tully would usually just be kind of giving kind of the schmuck laugh kind of thing to it. Rick would just be going off, but Arn would send it home and basically lay it out. Just, this is what's going to happen to you guys. You have no business messing with us in the first place. You're not in our league.
Right.
But Rick would just be like, riding profiling, riding Space Mountain, just.
And so for that reason alone, honestly, it's that dynamic.
Yeah.
I always think,
and it's all at the same time.
We're a tag team. Which one of them am I?
Exactly.
Like, I'm clearly that dude.
There'd be a mix because, and again, we talked about Neidhart. I'd have to have a little bit of like Jim the Anvil Neidhart in me too. So there'd probably be some moments there, but more often than not, I would have to be the one
group
in that moment. I'd be the one to just kind of, all right, man. Okay. Just give me the mic. You go do your thing.
I need you to be over there for a while.
Some of these remind people who were actually wrestling, and just kind of lay this out here a little bit and make sure that I put the fear of God in them.
Right.
And we'll go on from there while you were just flat out.
Don't know.
Fire me. You can't fire me.
So. Yeah. All right. That was 4 and 5.
Yep.
Number 3. I'll tell you. Number 1, 2, and 3. I could legitimately almost interchange. They're all one. They're all one. It just doesn't. It's 1 A, B, and C. But I am going to, and so I'm actually stalling and deciding at the end of the moment, to be honest with you.
Which order you want to go in?
Yeah, which one am I going to go with? Number 3 for me. I'm sorry. 1C for me is The Undertaker. The Undertaker brings everything together as far as a wrestling character for me. He has the hocus pocus stuff. I will buy into that. I like that type of thing. If it's done well,
got the darkness.
If it's done well, I like it. I like the darkness and the dark side, and we play all that. Absolutely. You got to do it. Don't do stupid stuff. Don't do what they were doing with the Fiend and stuff later. Not the Fiend. The Fiend wasn't so bad, but the Alexa Bliss stuff was icy. Anyhow,
it just didn't do it correctly. Yeah, it was just poorly done. Yeah, I agree.
Do it correctly. So I like the supernatural thing. If you do it correctly, the Brood. I like the Brood. That was cool. That was good. It was good,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Taker, absolutely. So he hit that. If you handed him a microphone, could he talk? Yes. Did he make you believe what he was saying? Yes. Could he wrestle? Yes. Could, he did all the things. Could he tell a story without really talking? Yes. Was he terrifying at times if you just showed? Yes. He was all of the things. All of the things. So as far as I'm not saying he was the greatest wrestler in the ring or anything like that. In fact, I'm probably a bad judge of that, to be perfectly honest. I'm not the guy that you want to.
Oh, I'll chime in on that. But you go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, so I only know him as The Undertaker. Jarrett goes back a little bit further, so he'll know why Undertaker used to climb up on the ropes and do this punch, where he would hold somebody's arm and jump off the ropes and punch him. He knows why he does. That was actually a callback to a move that he did before he was The Undertaker. I know Mark Calloway is only the Undertaker.
Right.
The coming out with the Druids, WrestleMania. That guy, that's the Undertaker as far as I'm concerned. And that was even now. I didn't see early Undertaker. I had to go back to watch that early Undertaker where he was truly just an Undertaker, where he was coming out. He was supposed to be not quite as supernatural as the Ministry Undertaker. Not nearly that supernatural.
Yeah.
But the Ministry Undertaker is the one, I wouldn't say it's the one I came in with, but he was probably about a year or so away from becoming that guy. So he was already kind of heading down the road. He could shoot electricity and stuff like that. He would have lightning come down and things that he could burn the ring and stuff like that. I like that type of thing. I am all for all of it. So the Undertaker without question has to be in my top 3. Like I said, if he was 1 and you were like, Ian, here's your top 5, and he was 1, I'd be like, yeah, okay. So you'll see with the next 2 as well. They're very interchangeable. But if I have to make a pick, I am picking Taker as my number 3 overall.
So Taker and Flair actually is in a group that I don't include in lists like this because they just need to be assumed.
They just
need to be assumed.
Yeah.
Like there's no point in adding, like from my eyes, like there's no point in adding to the list because it's like they are like 0 point whatever ahead of whatever 1 would be.
Sure.
Sure. And so Taker's on that list for me.
Yeah.
Mark Calloway, 6'9", ridiculous athlete.
Yeah.
Just you talk about again, like like working the ring, but then when you talk about the fact that this dude would walk the tightrope of the very top rope and do the moves that he would do, that clothesline where he would actually kind of flip and kind of land on his back, just different moves that he would do and the way he would move, especially as he kind of grew into the character and opened up a bit and didn't necessarily have to play it as methodical.
Sure.
You actually see some of the early stuff that he would do as Mark Callis, and different things that he would do. I actually, first time I saw him, I believe it was WCW or it might have been NWA, whatever it was. He was part of a group called the Skyscrapers.
Oh, yeah.
With Dan Spivey at one point, and then also Sid Vicious. And Callaway was the worker of the group. Callaway was the guy that actually got the match done because neither Spivey nor Vicious. Vicious looked good.
Yeah, he looked all parts except,
but did not have it in the ring. It was Mark that made the match work because, good God, otherwise it would just be a slugfest.
Do you know? I remember this. It is legitimately this mode. This is not in any way scripting. This is real. I remember the Skyscrapers, and it wasn't until you just said it that the little kid in me went back to picture what the Skyscrapers looked like, and the Undertaker's
that pale redhead guy, but just massive. Yeah.
Because when you said Sid Vicious, I was like, yeah, Sid was in that. So who was the other guy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Dan Spivey.
What's his name?
Actually,
who's the Harlem Heat? Oh, shoot. Not Harlem Heat.
We talking about Booker T or Stevie Ray?
No.
Are you talking about Doom?
No, I'm talking about who's the little guy? The black dude. Shit, what is his name? He's the manager.
Rick, Slick Rick. Oh, what they call him Slick Rick. He had he had do like the sucking through his teeth thing, and he would he was just kind of like I can't remember the name. It was something else, but like some people.
Well, who is
some people would joke they call him Slick Rick.
I forget. Yes, because he went.
You're talking about. Oh no, I know who you're talking about. Theodore, Teddy Long.
Teddy Long. Isn't it Teddy Long?
That's the one. I think it was either Teddy Long or the guy I'm thinking of is Slick Rick, even though that's not what they called him.
Sure.
Sure. But it was one of those two. Yeah. But anyhow,
neither here nor there. Sorry, I just had the moment of like, wait a second. I remember that moment. Yeah,
it's funny though, as you kind of look back at old stuff and see people like, oh wait, okay, wait a minute. But for the longest time, he was and it might not have been Teddy. I'm trying to remember because for the longest time, Teddy Long was a referee. It was Teddy Long at this point.
Is it Teddy Long? I'm
saying Teddy Long. I'm going to have to look it up now. But
yeah, because I'm sitting there, I'm picturing Teddy Long, but there's a couple of guys that was similar at the time.
So yeah, I'll look this up. But I mean, Mark Callaway is a one in a lifetime wrestler, and just as far as like what he could do in the ring, and to be able to carry a character, even with some of the deviations and tangents that he did in the early 2000s.
Sure.
But to be able to, outside of that, but also the thing is that he was able to do that and still be treated legitimate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
it's hard to play the character that he was playing. Like, as much as I joke, I'm not joking. I like it. I like the hocus pocus stuff. This hocus pocus stuff, if you do it right, don't do it stupid. Don't do like
that. Yeah.
But if you do it right, I like the hocus pocus. Vampire thing, the hocus pocus, you can do it. Teleporting around, cool. Do it, all of it. I like it.
Oh yeah, that's 100% Teddy Long.
Yep, it is, right?
Okay. That is Teddy Long.
I was trying to look it up real quick, but I wasn't going to pull it up on this machine because, well, I was afraid. Scroll.
You could see him, like you could see Mark as like, even, and like, because he was known as Mean Mark Callis in these days, and he wrestled, like I said, it was Sid Vicious. I think it would fluctuate, but for the most part, it was Spivey, and then Sid Vicious was the one that replaced Mark. And I think there might have been a little bit of overlap with Mark and Vicious, but it was, but basically, especially like that, it'd have to be ugly when Sid and Spivey were together. I mean, they could be sort of the big bruisers. Okay, fine. Yeah, but you pretty much lost. Yeah, you lost basically any of kind of your true in-ring talent at that point. Yeah, I mean, and just like it was like they're just like those guys that they're forever green.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's like you've been in the business for a dozen years. Why are you moving like you just showed up yesterday?
Yeah,
like what the hell, man? And that was Vicious and Spivey to a point too. Just not good workers in the ring. But I mean, this is where I think this is where Callis was able to leave and ended up going into the WCW. But they were just...
How many misses that WCW has? If you think about this for a moment, this is really off topic, and honestly, this could be a stream by itself. How many misses did WCW have of guys that left them? Stone Cold, Mark Calloway, a.k.a. The Undertaker, Triple H, I forgot what he was called in WCW. Those are just three off the top of my head without moderately thinking. Chris Jericho. But, how many misses did they have? So, anyhow.
Yeah, and actually, I'll correct myself. I did had it reversed. The original incarnation was Vicious and Spivey. Mark came in and replaced Sid Vicious when Vicious moved over to the WWF.
Okay. Yeah, because
Mark actually came in, but I always remembered Mark and Dan together. Those were the two that I always remembered as part of Skyscrapers and just these. And they were, of course, kind of the ones that would always be going up against the Road Warriors.
Sure.
Because as big and muscular that Animal and Hawk were, Mark and Dan and either three of them we're just going to tower over them.
Sure. Right.
And
short, stocky, tall, and also.
Yeah. just but yeah, anyway, yeah, Like, yeah, Undertaker's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And honestly, there's a part of me that kind of didn't want to put him and Rick in this for what you just said.
Kind of what I said. Yeah, they're just kind of assumed.
They're
you don't like
wanting to. I mean, the WWFE whatever version of that for the last 30 years has been built around the Undertaker.
Yeah,
he's there. And I don't mean he's there like in the background, some little small corner. I mean, he's front and center and the whole place is built around him. Behind the scenes, you don't cross the Undertaker. Or
no.
That's what I know him as.
He was that. Yeah.
They have him in there when they think bad stuff is going to happen. Mark Calloway shows up. When the whole Montreal Screwjob.
That's what I was about to say.
The guy that shows up and's like, Vince, listen.
Well, no. So here's how this went down. Vince made sure that he met with Mark before Shawn showed up.
Yes.
Because Undertaker doesn't play that shit.
No.
And if he had any inclination, I'll tell you what. Because I think Mark plays ball.
Absolutely.
So he would have done whatever Vince told him to do.
He's a company man. Absolutely.
And Vince probably told him to stay the F out of it.
Yes.
If that conversation with Vince did not happen,
or it goes very differently,
I can guarantee you that at the very least, Taker would have known exactly what Shawn knew.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. Because that's one of those things that's always been kind of in question about Shawn's actual play in it.
Yeah. Does he
Whether
know?
he was just
know?
doing what he was told to do?
Or
did he not even really know what was going on? Whatever.
Yeah.
Taker would have gotten it out of him. Period. The BSK crew, the backstage crew. It was him, Yokozuna, guy was the Godfather / Papa Shango, a couple other guys.
Was Gorilla around at this point? Now he's probably dead, or
at least not in
Monsoon. Yeah, he was.
I know who you're talking about. I don't. If he wasn't already passed, he was long retired, not involved in it.
Sure.
I don't think Gorilla would have had much to do with that either. But the BSK kind of backstage faction, similar to the Clique, was kind of a group of guys who just
This is the real world, right? No kayfabe.
They were guys that really kind of believed in being professionals and not screwing around with stuff. Yes. And you don't go into business for yourself.
Right.
You play it straight. Exactly. Taker, more often than not, if there was wrestler's court, Taker was the judge.
Yes, absolutely.
Because nobody would question what he said.
No.
So again, you're looking at
factor. I mean,
it was
he didn't just show up and was he's 6'9", 3 something. Yeah, he's a big guy. You know what wrestling's made up of? Big guys.
300 pounds, 6'9" guys.
Big deal.
But again, I think but again, you got guys like Sid Vicious, who looks the part and can't handle himself.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
And then you got guys like Mark Calloway, who every inch of him can absolutely take care of himself.
Yeah, he's
100%
in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's no joke. No joke.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he would be able to take every single person ever.
No. But it's not about that. It's the threat of it.
Honestly,
just the sheer threat of it.
You don't want to go in where, oh my goodness, I'm scared of him because he could whip my ass. There's a lot of people that can whip mine. I'm not scared. But
that's the thing, is that in that kind of world, that does carry that does come into play quite a bit, because you have just big, huge fuckers that it's I mean, like, I catch you with the right punch, man. It's lights out.
Yeah.
That kind of thing plays in it, but at the same time, it is because Taker was such a professional, such a he just did it, and just again, I think either as Undertaker or as Mean Mark Callis or Mark Calloway, the real man,
Sure.
And again, kind of similar to Arn Anderson played. That's where he got the name the Enforcer. It wasn't because of his on camera personality. It was because of who he was behind the scenes.
Right.
It was that role. Like, you didn't mess with that guy. And again, it wasn't necessarily because he very well could whoop your ass. It was just a respect that very few people in the business have.
And
to that level.
Such a key. So
yeah.
So yeah, Taker is top three in my list and whatever.
Oh yeah.
But honestly, in WWE, WWF lore, Taker has every claim to be number one.
Oh, absolutely.
Every claim. Forget Hogan. Screw that guy. Forget Flair at that point, because Flair kind of doesn't. He jumps in and out.
Well, that, but also by the time, he's WWE Flair is a different beast.
Flair was wrestling.
Yeah.
Taker's WWF. Mm-hmm. Whatever last letter we want to put on that. That was.
Well, you think from the time he walked in and
toe to toe with Vince McMahon, and I don't mean Mr. McMahon. I didn't say Mr. McMahon.
No.
Kennedy.
Vince backstage.
Yes. Yeah. And go. Yeah. He's the one that, according to him, the Montreal Screwdriver. It depends on what moment it is and what day it is and which way you're facing as to who you can believe. But according to Taker, he went into Vince at the end after all of it went down, and he said, "Vince, you need to go in and see Bret and take the punch." Basically.
Right. Yeah.
And Vince, think about that. Your boss, you're telling your boss, go in and get punched in the face. Or,
Yep.
And
that was that part of it. And then, it was that because Shawn was gone.
Yeah. Hell yeah, Shawn was gone. Shawn's a smart man. Shawn ain't stupid.
I think there's one point where I can't remember exactly. Like in my mind, it was like, I think like there was a point where Bret had almost of a chance to get to Shawn, and they people kind of just pushed
Shawn
him
got
off.
the hell out of there. Watch the Montreal Screwjob. You want to watch somebody that does a good acting job? I don't know what he knew. No one knows what he knew except for Shawn, and his story changes day to day. So,
and again, that's the thing. It was a good. Shawn probably was just as worried, if not more worried, about Taker at that point.
Oh, sure.
And I'm sure, because that's what I was talking about beforehand, where like that Raw, Vince wanted to make sure he had a chance to sit down with Taker.
Well, Shawn was in a weird spot, too. Shawn has to get out of the ring with the guy that's really mad, who can kick his ass.
And again,
this is go back to the back. It's not like it was a free pass once he got in the back. He had to get past Taker, too. So there was a lot of steps along the way. Like Shawn, it was best Shawn left. Shawn was not pulling the thing that he pulled later on when Stone Cold. So again, WrestleMania 14 is where I kind of come really into WWF, where Stone Cold is about to ascend. That is his ascension. He has become the champ. He is the man. All that. And Shawn, while he's getting his interview, Shawn's being Shawn. That's my boy. Shawn's being Shawn, and he's storming out and kicking doors and stuff like that. He's not doing any of that during the Montreal Screwdriver. He's trying to get the hell out of Dodge. Smart man. Know your spots, man. Know your spots. So him and Triple H, probably every other Click member, getting the hell out of Dodge. That was not the time. No time, no place. That was a Vince McMahon, and let them fight that out. Vince and Bret, y'all just battle it out. So, anyhow, Taker, Taker is like I said, he's 1C.
Easy pick, 1C. Yeah, easy
1C,
pick.
For me. Number 2. So, Jarrett, this is where our lists are gonna crisscross them just a little bit. We talked a lot about the Montreal Screwdriver. We talked about Bret Hart. We talked about Taker. We talked about Vince McMahon. There's another guy in the ring. My boy, HBK. Yeah, no, Shawn Michaels. Shawn Hickenbottom.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it was a good thing he did. He wasn't going with that name.
Yeah, good God. Yeah. That was not going to win you a lot of stuff.
That wasn't going to get him anywhere.
That was not going to get you anywhere. So, yeah. Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. That's my, he's 2. He's definitely 2. And there's some irony, or I don't know if irony is the right word, but Jarrett will correct me if that's not quite the right word. There's a little bit of strangeness as far as that goes. Because here's the deal. When I'm getting into wrestling, back into wrestling, Shawn Michaels was leaving. In fact,
yeah.
I only saw that. I didn't see Shawn Michaels wrestle live until 2000. I want to say it was around 2000. When he came back, he wasn't the Heartbreak Kid then. He was, he had, got the Jesus thing going. So
he lost his smile.
He lost his smile a long time ago. He lost his smile back in like 96 or 5. So he was, he had actually, ironically, Shawn Michaels that I like is the guy that he learned not to be anymore and had grown up. I could say in the real world, like the real life Shawn Michaels had grown up. And he had grown up and he had kicked a lot of his demons. And I'm picking about the Jesus thing. He born again and all of that stuff. The stuff that, where he says that his son saw him basically wigged out on the couch and he heard his son go, "Oh no, daddy's sleeping." He knew it was that moment. And hey, credit to him. Absolutely.
Yeah. It could have gone a bunch of different ways.
That plays in a lot more than I probably even want to admit, to be honest with you. As somebody who has a son and stuff like that, you always kind of have those feelings and things like that. Those moments of time that you're like, I need to be better. Like, I got to be better for this.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely.
But the Shawn that is my favorite, Shawn Michaels, HBK, is the total ass. I mean, he is unquestioned. I give Jarrett a hard time. If you've ever watched any of our streams over on Twitch or, the ones we upload to YouTube, I give him a hard time about Triple H a lot of times. I give him a hard time about Triple H marrying his way up to the top. I give him a hard time about, Triple H is keeping people down. I give him a hard time about how all the backstage stuff that happens. You know who's really good at that? All that backstage stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
If Triple H does it, and I'm not saying he doesn't, let's just be real. But let's say he doesn't, or let's say he does, rather. You know where he probably got it from?
100%.
To be honest, do you know where he got it from? Yeah, Shawn Michaels is my boy. Shawn is the antithesis of everything that I would be if I was trying to be a wrestler, or try to be. I would never be able to live up to those standards. But everything as far as professional wrestling is concerned, I like Shawn Michaels. He is a complete prick. Total prick. Total 100% and arrogant, whatever you want to call him. He probably is that dude. He's my favorite.
Right.
He could have easily been my favorite, to be honest with you. He has all the machismo, all of that.
Sure.
He plays all of it well. when it's go time, he can wrestle. Maybe one of the top ever. Maybe one of the top ever. If not we'd have to go back and forth on that. But,
yeah, I'd argue some for other, but he was definitely in that 100% top echelon for sure.
Within the ring, on the mic, he could get through it. Was he ever? He wasn't The Rock. Like The Rock was pretty smooth about his. He wasn't Stone Cold. He wasn't Triple H. Triple H is smoother on the mic and stuff like that. But you believed that Shawn, being sort of a punk on the mic, losing his smile,
right?
Was
he did better with the manager,
huh?
Yeah, he did better. He did better with the manager, and that's where they were able to bring Sherry Martel in, and everything else. Really, really helped to But no, as far as the guy that I'm always paying attention to when he's on screen, it's Shawn. Every single time, it didn't matter if he was he could have been back in the dressing room and they cut to him and Shawn was there. You're gonna get my attention. Yeah, Shawn. Right. So Shawn Michaels is an easy. Like I said, he could have easily been one. He could have easily been one for me. So yeah, HBK, Shawn Michaels. Especially the 95, 6, 7 Shawn Michaels is my favorite one. Ironically, didn't see him live at the time. He was he had retired because Taker had broke his back. So not intentional. I mean, that was just dumb luck because Shawn was little. Shawn's not much bigger than I am. So yeah, Shawn's a little guy. And I think it's the other thing too, about for his size, everything. So I did get to see Shawn Michaels, like beginning to end. Gotcha. I got to see all of it.
The rocker days,
the rockers, and everything.
Kicking Marty
Jannetty,
right? Jannetty
through the
glass.
Yeah, at the barbershop thing. He's not quite the same, but he's probably the closest to like what Ric Flair is to you. Shawn Michaels is the closest. I don't think about wrestling the same way, so it's not the same thing.
Sure.
But he's the closest to me for that, as far as guys that I hear about, and again, I also don't have the same reaction to things, but it's probably the closest to giving me that reaction.
Sure. Jared's nicely trying to say that he doesn't respond to it like a 5-year-old. That's honestly that's what he's really trying to tell me. But it's all right.
So and a big part of it too is because, again, for different reasons, you absolutely the character on screen was perfect, especially being a small guy like that. And especially being like a small heel, complete, just utter prick. Guys like The Miz try and live in that shadow.
Sure.
MJF.
Oh, absolutely. MJF's not a MJF big guy at all.
But also, just that pure, unadulterated prick.
Mm-hmm.
Although I really do strongly believe that MJF is actually casting his own shadow now. He's starting to be that guy. But 100%, there's HBK written all over MJF. There's Ric Flair written all over MJF. Mm-hmm. Any of those prickish heels that lived. The thing about this too is that probably more so like Ric Flair would live the gimmick probably just kind of almost ironically, and a big part of it just because he was traveling so much, and also he had to be that guy to an extent because of the position he was put in.
Sure, right.
Shawn Michaels lived that role.
It's just who he was.
Because it's who the hell he was.
And
the biggest, like for me, like for you, where you hate Ric Flair because of what you saw on screen with Sting. So behind the scenes, it was a completely different story. With Shawn Michaels, especially if he was playing the heel,
was who he was.
That's who he was. Yeah, and he would screw a lot of people over and connive. You mentioned
That's all right by any means necessary. That was all right.
Kind of.
No, it wasn't all right. I know.
Kind of.
Right. It was.
It's
not kind of all right.
It's
a lot of bad.
There's shit he did.
Yeah, he made sure only his buddy. It's like all the bad stuff, right? Yeah. It's all of the bad stuff.
And you got, and again, you kind of got to talk about that piece of it.
Yeah.
To really, no. And then
Absolutely,
like his issues, his problems with, and some of it, again, like he fell into some of the traps that a lot of wrestlers do. It's a hard job. It is an unbelievably hard job.
Person too.
But a guy like and just the wrecking it does on your body, and so because of that, he fell down the path that a lot of people unfortunately do with the painkillers,
sure,
and different things, just so that he could show up at work and get paid,
right.
And so again, I also think about it a lot of those things that way. So I guess especially for him with some of the drug addiction stuff that he got into, I don't really actually take that as a 100% fault on his character. I think some of it is because also then he just kind of took it and he just kind of did the whole, the party, he took advantage of it. He's like, hey, this stuff is great. I'm going to, I'll take a little bit more, but also some of it, he really kind of had to do that to keep himself going. But just a lot of the shit that he did. You mentioned at one point about the Sunny Days thing with Bret Hart.
I knew we were going to get back to that. There's a reason I threw that in. I knew we were going to get back to it for sure.
That right there to me is some of the most malicious shit that somebody can fucking do to somebody else.
Yeah, that was so. Just to give everybody before Jared goes in, because I see it.
I'm gonna need an Arn Anderson to pull me back here in a second.
Yeah. I was gonna say I see it. It's just building. It's gonna be great TV. Everybody should watch. It's gonna be great. Computer, phone, whatever you watch it on. Stay tuned. But
I'm just gonna sit over and eat my wing right now.
Yeah. No, legitimately, this. So what happened is on a promo on Raw, live on Raw, Shawn throws the line in. I know you've seen some sunny days. Sunny was a wrestler, manager is probably a better term. She was one of the divas. Valet, yeah. So she was one of the divas that worked at WWF at the time. She was the Road Warriors. I believe she's with Road Warriors at the time. She's pretty. She's one of the girls that worked at WWF at the time. So anyhow, he was talking to
would have been a box office star porn actress.
Oh, absolutely. Heck yeah. Yeah. So Sunny, I don't remember what her last name was, but Sunny was a actual person that worked there. And her and Bret Hart, and later Shawn Michaels, or before Shawn Michaels, but anyhow, her and Bret Hart had some quality time together.
Here's I need to stop this right there.
Okay.
Bret Hart never had any kind of sexual relations whatsoever with anyone outside of marriage, especially not Tammy Stitch, fucking Sunny. Tammy Stitch is, and check it out right now where she is right now. She's all drugged up and killed a person that was coming out of their parked car because she was drunk driving and killed the son of a bitch because she's too effing stupid to either A, stop drinking, or B, stop getting behind the wheel of a car. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah,
Bret Hart never fucked her.
But for the time period,
that never happened.
No. I believe that. But at the time period, so this is Shawn on Raw.
But right, yeah.
And the rumor, the strong big rumor at the time was that very much so is happening at the time. So on Raw, live, forget that this is real. We look at these people
it's live.
This is live. This isn't, okay, we're taping something, we can cut it out later, or forget even cutting it out later. You don't talk about certain things that can affect someone's family. Like, you don't mess with people's family, you don't mess with their money.
Yeah.
That's sort of like, everything else is pretty, especially if you're in a public figure. Everything else, okay.
Kind of work around it.
Right.
But yeah.
But the rule is, you don't mess with, not even public, just people in general. Don't mess with their kids. Don't mess with their money. And by kids, I mean their family. You don't mess with those two things. Those are just kind of standard break across the, you want to make fun of me because of whatever else, fine. Okay. But those are like two things. And he kind of affected both.
Yep.
Because if you affect somebody's kids, you are affecting their money. So it's sort of vice versa. So Shawn Michaels gets out on Raw and he goes, I know you've seen some sunny days. I mean, Shawn was not, again, he's second on my list of favorite of all time. But he wasn't exactly subtle when it came to being able to take some digs that he could not stand Bret Hart by the end. And vice versa.
Yeah, he couldn't stand that Bret Hart, especially the way the type of wrestler and the type of person that he is.
Sure.
And
at the time,
especially, and I think that, Bret also just could not tolerate HBK because
Shawn
he
represented
was
all the bad.
Every inch of it.
He
wasn't
a actual out of the ring fighter. He wasn't about making the business better. Shawn is not about building up other characters. He wasn't.
No.
Shawn was about building Shawn.
Yeah.
Or his
and then
posse.
And then secondary to that, the click. But let's get this straight too, is that if it came down to choosing between something that would benefit Shawn
or Triple H
personally versus something that would benefit the click,
right?
Shawn would pick Shawn every day.
Every 9 out of 9, 10 out of 10, whatever version of that you want to go with.
Sure. It's there's no in between on that. And again, some of it had to do just some of the impact of all the ridiculous amount of drugs that he was taking. Sure. But at the same time,
his tightest of tight buddies. Triple H is known to be his tightest of tight buddy, right? And even by the end, Triple H is like, "Look, dude, we're not good. We're not."
Yeah,
we're not
and he
good.
saw the writing on the wall. He's like, "I gotta separate myself from this.
Yeah,
I cannot be with this right now." And I mean, then you've got talked about Scott Hall, another member of the Clique, who was dealing with his own demons and going nuts. Sean Waltman, freaking shooting sex tapes with China, and then Nash is just kind of being Nash, but Nash is again kind of a bit of a Weasley prick in his own right.
Well, remember Triple
and
H?
So for Trips, it's just like,
didn't he dump China to go jump?
He dumped China.
Yeah, he dumped China to jump over to Steph. I'm not saying.
Well, it wasn't that quick.
That was an upgrade.
It was an upgrade. I mean, Steph. Yeah. I mean, but I mean, forget whose daughter she is. No, forget that. Just Steph's a piece.
Hot.
Steph's a piece.
Steph's good looking for sure.
There was more time in between that than also gets talked about. But yeah, he like China also was dealing with her own shit and just kind of going nuts and everything, and then. That's where X-Pac kind of like slid into her DMs and was like, "Hey, baby," So but yeah, a lot of that whole scene with the Clique was really unraveling, and And Trips, who's a teetotaler, doesn't drink.
No.
Doesn't do any of that stuff. Somehow got himself in the mix of all these people.
Worst,
fucking wild nuts. Yeah.
Well, you know what Nash said? Nash was like, wait, so you don't do any of that stuff? DD? DD.
Pretty much. Exactly. I think that's a big part of it too. But also he was smart to the business and really things like that. And so I think there was a big part of it there. But yeah, Triple H was in the clique, but there was a lot of stuff that he wasn't involved with just because he was probably in bed.
He was,
and then was at the gym, and then was probably just kind of hanging out, waiting for everybody to shuffle their way down, and then actually, okay, fine, now, okay, we're driving to the next spot. That was a big part of that there.
Sure.
But yeah, that whole thing was Sunny Days.
That's not cool.
Especially because of Shawn's
a lot of level. The
involvement
code,
with him.
Nothing else. That's
well, just even this like the co-worker side of it. I mean, the big thing there is especially Shawn's relationships, as you may want to call it, with Sunny, and just the way he kind of treated that whole thing. The whole thing with Sunny and Bret was that, and yeah, you kind of see because Sunny was Sunny, but she was a flat out hoe.
Yeah.
Let's just make it clear, because she was spending a decent amount of time with Bret, but also like she was actually spending a lot of time with Bret and his whole family. And a big part of it is that Bret actually kind of, I don't know exactly how it all came together. Maybe she tried to push something onto Bret because he was one of the top stars.
Sure.
And Bret ended up turning it around and was one of the few people that was nice to Sunny, but didn't want to bang her brains out at the same time.
Sure.
And so Sunny actually was spending quite a bit of time with Bret and his whole family. She was really big. She was kind of like, almost kind of like a crazy aunt to his kids. She had a very close relationship with his kids, and like his wife knew who she was, knew what she was, but she, again, it wasn't just that she was hanging out with Bret. She was with the entire family. And I think a big piece of it was that they kind of helped bring her in and probably gave her a taste of a bit of that kind of that family connection that she never really had.
Yes.
And so
Bret was more of a big brother.
Kind of. Yeah. But I guarantee you she threw herself at him.
Oh, without question. Knowing the person
because of just the position, that he was in.
Absolutely. No question.
And so, again, I don't know if that's
hooked herself up with Shawn because he was at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that whole, but the whole Sunny, like, and so I can absolutely see, especially if anyone was bitter or just kind of just generally cynical, would have looked at how much time that Bret and Sunny were seen together, but what they weren't completely seeing was the whole picture.
Sure.
Was that she was like it again, if you really want to say that like Sunny was like just hanging out on the side with Bret, 100% false. That never existed. That relationship never existed. It was always, and I think this is Bret's side of it. I think Bret saw it as like, I think Bret felt bad for her. And from his position, he was,
as far as wrestling and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean,
there
wasn't this women's wrestling, women's.
Oh no.
Evolution or whatever it is. Now.
She was part of the sex show. She was part of the PG sex show.
Be pretty.
PG-13. I mean, but like, and the same. She did the same thing. Same thing happened with her in ECW. Same thing happened with her in Ring of Honor. Same thing happened with her pretty much everywhere she went, because deep down that's what she was. but it's really kind of boiled down to. But see it again, and I think from Sean's point of view, I think
Shawn, quite frankly, could have just been jealous at the time.
Well, I think it's jealous, but I don't think Shawn was jealous of Bret Hart being with Sonny.
No.
Because there was no reason to be, because if Shawn wanted to get with Sonny, he could. Regardless of what was going on with her and Bret.
Sure. Yeah, you're right.
Let's say it was the other end of it. Let's say it was the other side of it, and Bret was, banging her all over the place.
Right.
That none of that kept Shawn from getting a hold of her.
Right.
So it wasn't about that. It was more about Shawn being jealous of Bret's position, and he was a legitimate threat to his place as being outside of Taker, being top dog.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was getting the push, and Bret was coming in, and Shawn saw that as an opportunity to really stick a needle in, and
absolutely. And
I
remember watching it live. Not knowing
I do
any
too.
of the back end stuff, and went, "Wait, what? What? That clearly, you said Sonny really hard in that promo." And I barely know who Sonny is, but I know
that's the thing too. That's the thing too, is that we know more now looking back at it, but especially at the time.
Oh my goodness,
that was more of a behind the scenes.
Yes, he brought it to the screen.
The public didn't know what Sunny Days was.
I remember in the moment
and
watching it, going, "Wait," live watching.
Yeah.
Not knowing wrestling, again, not knowing the back end stuff. I wasn't into any of that. I was watching just to watch. And going, wait a second. He hung on the words Sunny and Days. That's clearly talking about a person. Like, I don't need to know. I don't need to know the back end stuff. But I clearly know you're talking about a person. Like, you're very clearly, and if I knew that as the person who likes the kayfabe and tries to stay in it, if I knew that, then it's even worse, because now it means his family knows that. His daughter knows
exactly.
That.
That's the trick.
His
well, and so basically, see, that's the thing. See, now this is where this is the thing. This is where, again, that's with not knowing all the back end.
Sure.
See, this is the thing too, is that I don't think Shawn completely knew all of the back end.
Of course not.
And so because if he did, then he would know that there was no ammunition in the gun.
Right.
He didn't know the extent of it. Exactly. He did not know what was actually going on there.
Sure.
Which is why he unloaded that. Now, piss Bret off, bottom line, regardless of what's going on, yeah, because now you're laying that laundry, that inside laundry, that behind the curtain laundry out. It's not even my Bret's coming. I was like, that's not even my laundry.
Well, it's one or the other.
But now,
if it is, you just brought it on national television. Told my wife.
But if
it's not,
exactly. It's more. It would be more of just that side of it, because he wouldn't be as worried about the public as much. There'd be a small percentage of people that may, and especially people that have a bit more on the inside, the smart marks and stuff like that.
Sure.
That would know exactly what Shawn was talking about. But a good majority of the people aren't going to have a freaking clue what he's talking about. And then, because that was basically the code word for I just banged Sonny last night amongst the guys. Sunny Days was the thing absolutely. That you said to people to brag about the fact that you just banged Sonny.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but see, again, now, yeah, Shawn's trying to drop a bomb on Bret's wife, especially.
National TV.
Yeah, on national television. And it backfired because Bret's wife already knew the relationship with Sonny, and Bret was not alone with Sonny anywhere near enough to like have anything going on. And so that's where like Shawn didn't understand that. Also, I don't think Shawn would understand having that kind of a relationship with a person.
No.
Especially not Sonny. No.
Shawn's not kind of a family man. Shawn's party.
No.
Shawn,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has so
as far as Shawn was concerned,
he had no idea. He had no idea that he actually he pissed them off, but let's make it and it was Brett's wife. Brett's wife got a chance to get Shawn on the phone, obviously read him the riot act, but also let him know exactly what she knew about the whole situation. And then Shawn's probably just like, okay, I mean, probably having a whole lot of mixed emotions about this, but he's like, whatever, that whole thing. But also, I mean, like, no, you're not dealing with that stuff. And I mean, the other thing too, I mean, that's a dumb move in a lot of ways, because the Hart brothers, Brett's sister would like, God help Shawn if even Brett's sister got a hold of him. And good God Almighty, if Stu Hart, even his decrepit ass, got a pinky on Shawn Michaels. That's definitely one of the, again, just not having any kind of context of reality.
There was probably a good reason that Shawn Michaels had a lot of bodyguards over the years, and I don't mean in kayfabe. I don't mean
no.
I don't mean
real actual bodyguards,
actual real life bodyguards. There's probably some reason to that.
Mm-hmm.
That said, he's still my second favorite, so I don't care. Now,
but again, to me, it's like, again,
but he's
to
also
me,
grown.
He has. Yeah. But again, to me, it's like, it's kind of to the point where it's one of those things where it's like, all right, I can wish you well, or at the very least, actually, let me say this. I'm not actively wishing that you die of dysentery tomorrow, but that's where it stops.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm not actively wishing your death. That's as far as it goes.
It happens.
That's as far as I'm not going to feel one way or the other about it.
Right.
But I can recognize what he's done to grow. I can do all this stuff, and no, I'm not wishing death and eternal damnation upon you. But now, that is where it stops for me and Shawn Michaels. Period.
I can see that. I will say that for me, wrestling in general, again, this is our differing views.
Yeah.
About wrestling. Shawn is a perfect linchpin, lightning rod, whatever version of that you want to go with. Between you and me.
Yeah.
I'm never talking about his off the field stuff or out the ring. I don't know how you say it in wrestling.
Right.
But it's very rarely, and it sounds bad. I know I don't sound great when I say this. I don't particularly care what's happening outside of the ring. I can tell it.
No, I can
thing,
see that position.
Okay,
I can tell that position.
Yeah,
and
I completely, like, you're being the better person.
See that.
I'm not even gonna lie. You're being the better person. I'm like, so yeah, what is entertaining right now?
See, and that's the thing. And also, this other thing for folks that don't understand is that a big part of it is because of my Asperger's. It's actually impossible for me to be like a true to form fan. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't be a fanboy for something.
With Jarrett and I, we talked about we need to do this. That
conversation
this is our
about that
split as far as him and I on wrestling.
And just even like anything, like, to me, like the wrestling business is the wrestling business. It is the behind the scenes. It is the whole show. Yeah, what's shown on camera is very, very important. But I'm thinking about it more mechanically and especially even more so, like if I was a showrunner, if I was a booker, if I was one of the people in the ring, how would I be handling this professionally? Thinking about the mechanics and all this stuff, but also on the back end of it, kind of really thinking about, you know, kind of again, even like stuff that would happen like with a sports team. You know, there's certain things that is like, as far as just, you know, people see you as going against each other in the ring, but the reality is you're actually working together.
Some of the best rivalries are best friends.
Exactly, because they work so well together.
Shawn and Triple H are a great rivalry.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They're best of friends. They're the best of buddies. Right.
But to me, kind of some of that personal dirty bullshit, it's like, no, man. Like, and especially if it was someone who was kind of like a teammate kind of thing. And I get there is a bit of a competition, especially in terms of kind of the stardom. And there is a little bit of dog eat dog in the business in terms of being able to try and vie for those top spots, but there's a way to do it. And again, kind of similar to like, I'm trying to think about it. Like if I was on a football team and somebody did certain shit to me, that fucker ain't playing next week.
Well, so
I might get kicked off the team, but guess what? That fucker ain't playing this week because he ain't walking. Because
really, I look at, you know, this is one of the divergence between my top people, right? Undertaker is probably the antithesis of professional.
Oh, all that. Yeah, I know.
Right?
Like,
he is the antithesis. I mean, just the pinnacle of all
especially,
things
but also
being behind the scenes, being one way, but you know what? I may not agree with it, but doggone it, this is what we're gonna do. Let's go, pull in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then Shawn is not that guy.
But see, also, and again, also let's be fair too. Again, Ric Flair behind the scenes would be much closer to Taker than Shawn.
Oh no! I'm just saying my last.
You know what I mean?
I was just saying my last two that I was talking.
Yeah,
about.
Flair would be, and it's got to kind of just depend on how much he had to drink that day.
Click or not click.
I mean, it really would kind of depend. Like I said, he'd get a little squirrely. Yeah. But I would say but also unlike Shawn, like if he really did something really, really bad to somebody, he would probably feel horrible about it.
He'd be the first one over there going.
And just like, yeah.
Get you a drink later.
100%. Like, yeah. But let's end this off on a good note, because I know who the last one was going to be. I just didn't know what order you're going to put them in, but I know. Yeah, I mean,
it could just be anybody at this point. I mean, like we've talked about Stone Cold, we've talked about Triple H. So many people it could be. There can only be one.
There can only be one.
Yeah. So for me, my absolute favorite of all time is Sting. Sting, without question. Sting is the guy that I came in watching, and honestly, that was the determining factor. Who's the guy that made me start watching wrestling and pay attention?
Keep watching it.
And kept watching it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I didn't recognize him when I came back, and he was up in the rafters with a white and black face. It was very confusing. I was looking for the yellow trunks and the yellow hair. He wasn't there. I don't know what happened in the between, but a lot of bad stuff happened in about 6 years. So... But
who hurt you, man? Who hurt you?
Man, somebody really hurt you. What is going on? Yeah. You really took a turn. Some stuff happened. Stuff happens. No, so Sting is absolutely my favorite of all time. He is so, and I go from Surfer Sting, spiky blonde hair, yellow trunks, black scorpion down the side. No shirt,
yell,
etc. Yeah, beating the chest, all that. The stinger splash, all the little stingers. I guess I was one of those. So it was make fun of. So Sting is by far. when I came back and he was a Crow, first off, I like the Crow, the movie The Crow. So when he came back and he was playing the Crow, I'm all in it. Done and done. My favorite character in comics is the Joker. He went to TNA and became the Joker. So, I have no choice but to like Sting. Sting is absolutely, Steve Borden is absolutely, without question, my favorite wrestler of all time.
Yeah.
He, again, I have a weird dynamic throughout all of, if you look at my guy, some are less good than others.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
In and outside the ring. Steve seems to be a good guy in and outside the ring.
Yeah, Sting.
You know, he's one of the...
Sting's one of the good ones.
Yeah,
I mean,
one of the few that's just... He's always...
Yeah.
And not just the business side of it. Like the human being side.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Put somebody over? Cool. Yeah, we should do
Yep.
that. Let's help him out. Let's do this. Put himself over? Yeah, let's do this. I can do this. I can go in the ring. I can talk on the mic. There's no weak place with Sting. And so, I mean,
yeah.
In this moment, Sting is in AEW playing second fiddle to Darby. I mean,
he's just helping him out. He's just helping him out.
Do I think that much of Darby? Personally? He little. He awful little. He awful little. I don't know how. He can't talk. Oh, he's little. Hey. I mean, he's okay. He throws his body around. That's good. But just because they both sat in the rafters, that's about where it begins and ends as far as...
It's kind of wet. I think it's more of just an aesthetic, you know.
Sure.
From their side of it. But again, Steve, you know, Sting is just looking at it like, yeah. Like, all right, I'll just get out.
Him out. All right, that's what we're doing. This is what.
Yep.
Yeah, no, Sting is easily my favorite. Like I said, Shawn is the irony is I'm nothing like Shawn. Like the actual person of me is not Shawn.
Oh no, no.
So,
I mean, nothing really like that. I mean, you could be a prick, but you're not.
Yeah,
you're not HBK prick. You know, it's a different. Yeah.
In fact, quite frankly, probably person-wise, I may be more like Sting. Like I actually, with the upbringing and everything else, the background. If you know what Steve outside of the ring, that's probably more closer to where I'm at. Which maybe indirectly I don't even realize it is why there's an affinity, you know, to Sting. No, Sting is my favorite. And that is why, and because Sting is my favorite, that honestly is why Ric Flair got to be in my top 5. Because the fact is, without Rick, I don't know about Sting. And
not to that extent.
You have to know for every good, you know, superhero, you have to have a supervillain. Like without the Joker, do you have Batman? I mean, you got him, but he is the up there.
Are the people reading the comics like for like Batman's got kind of his mystique, but after a while that'll start to get old. Without the Joker, you know, people aren't going to be coming back to pick up the issues, and you can tell they'll go through cycles, and whenever they need to time things right and start getting issues of Batman sold, they bring in the Joker.
Yeah,
and it's a pretty clear formula there. But again, when you think about it just from that bad guy side of things, but again, also it speaks to like Rick. I think Steve said to his face says, "I don't know what he saw in me, but he saw something in me," and would just work him through matches, and they got to where, like, let's say, like if you work a match with Rick long enough, and you know that he trusts you, then he will run the match with his eyes. And basically you're in situations and he'll do something with his eyes, and that tells you what to do next. and that's just kind of one of those like
stuff.
where they're able to they're able to call that stuff and be able to just say, okay, if you're up in the turnbuckle and his eyes will go either left, right, or up, you knew exactly what you needed to do. You knew it was coming. You knew what you needed to do, and just boom, boom, boom,
you got to
boom,
be the guy to be able to pick up on that too. Like, Rick can send. If you and I are in the ring and he's sending all those signals, that's all well and good. We're not going to.
Well, again, but that's also after working matches after matches after matches with you too. So in a way, it's kind of like you kind of should. Basically, it's just in the situation. We've got 3 options. I'm telling you which one of those it is. But I know you know exactly what those options
but you know
are.
which 3 it is. Right.
You know exactly what they are. I'm just telling you which one to do, so that I don't throw out my shoulder.
I will say the one big, huge knock that I have on Vince McMahon is his prickish way of dealing with Sting. It's just he's just a douche.
Well, yeah, and people give Triple H fault for that. That wasn't Trips' call.
I do not give
that wasn't Trips' call.
I quite frankly think Triple H would have known better. I think Triple H would have known. Don't get me wrong. Do all these people have egos? Absolutely.
Oh, sure.
Does Shawn Michaels have an ego? Yes. Does Triple H have an ego?
Absolutely. Yeah, for
Gordon,
Triple H,
whoever else. Sure.
Yeah.
You don't get to where they are without having ego, without trying to be the best and blah, blah, blah.
But there's a level to it.
There's a level.
Yeah.
When somebody's supposed to be hitting that mark and when they're not. And it's hard sometimes. Like, where's that? Was Shawn supposed to beat Bret Hart? Was it his time? Maybe. In the Montreal Screwdrop portion. Was it time?
Well, that's
Was it Stone Cold's time to go over Shawn in WrestleMania 14? Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was his time because it was his time to ascend. Whatever version of that you are. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. That was Sting's spot.
But also again. It wasn't
Triple H.
Vince's opportunity to stick it to the one guy who was, because he'd already had Flair come in and already made a fool out of him. So Sting was the one guy that had forever never touched the WWE. He was WCW to the day he was born.
Yeah.
And to me, I always kind of saw that as I kind of almost just wish Sting would have just hung his hat with that fact.
Yeah.
Because it never really did it outside of the paycheck and just kind of being able to go. And I think Steve also he really does love being in the ring and being out there with the fans and stuff like that. So from that perspective, for him, especially at the time, is really the only place he could go.
So let me ask this: because of what you just said, if AEW is around, does Sting ever go to WWF?
No.
Yeah, I agree.
Not one shot. Not one chance would he go. No, because also he would know. One, he would have heard it from Rick. Rick probably would have told him never to come. He would have seen exactly what happened to a lot of the WCW guys. Now, some of them were able to come back. They basically had to take their lumps.
Oh, yeah,
but that was a long time ago.
What WCW guy has made it in WWF?
Jericho, Booker T for a time.
Well, I mean, WCW since WCW was defunct. Because Jericho came over during the Monday Night Wars.
Oh, sure. Booker T came over. Booker T came over with the trade off. He was one of the guys. Booker T was one of the main ones, house. And then I'm trying to think who else.
He was made to look like a house. I don't know how to say that on stream. So
I know what you're
house
saying.
Is the word that I'm looking for.
For a bit, and then he was able to. He had actually a really good run in WWF.
Five times.
Oh yeah.
King Booker.
I mean,
King Booker.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, he was able to get through that and come out on the other side. There was quite a few guys that, I mean, basically, but here's the thing, and then again, this is just Vince's ego, where he felt regardless, you had to come in and take your lumps, but also kind of that thing of, okay, this is kind of this is the killing blow that pretty much just washes away the history of WWE versus WCW.
Yeah.
Taking down Sting. Because he was the one guy Vince couldn't touch. He was the top guy, the face of WCW. He was the Hulk Hogan. He was the Undertaker. He was the Rock. He was the Cena. He was the Stone Cold. Whatever face of WWE had going at any given time, you put Steve Borden's face on the other side representing WCW.
Right.
Every time. Didn't matter who was champion. And this is where I see him, being closer to an Undertaker type of role on the WCW side of the house.
Absolutely.
He didn't have to have the belt. He didn't have to have the belt. He didn't even have to wrestle a lot.
He
could just show up here and there. But when he showed up, the crowd went nuts.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And it just 100% just WCW to the day was done. And I think that it would have really, part of me was never probably even should have gone to TNA, but I think he did good stuff there. And actually, I think they treated him with respect.
Yeah, well, they did.
So I'm fine with it. But especially looking at it, it's an entirety. I think they did a good job with him. And I think he was able to go do what makes him happy, which is to be a wrestler and, get bills paid, all that good stuff.
Sure.
So I'm fine with that. Overall TNA booking choices. Okay, great. Again, talk about Vince Russo.
That's
but that was what it was. But also let's speak to this for a little bit too. Sting never turned heel.
No.
Not he would be in heel factions.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Because I was gonna say when he would
TNA, be in heel factions, especially in TNA.
He did the what was the shoot, I forgot what
the Millionaire Club or whatever it was. There was
the
Immortal
big event, main event
Mafia.
That's it.
There's so many versions of that. It all kind of bleeds together.
Right.
He was in a heel, just like when he had to be in the NWO. There was a time when he was in the NWO and it was he lost something and basically he had to be part of the NWO, but he was never 100% a heel. And then when he was with the Wolfpack, they were actually faces. They were faces.
Yeah, they were good guys by that time.
He was doing red and black. So even when he would do kind of the main event mafia and stuff like that, he never
was the same guy.
He was the same guy, and also he wouldn't get in on the shenanigans. Like, he wasn't beating people up backstage. He wasn't conniving things. He didn't cheat in the ring.
No.
Like I said, he might find himself in situations where he's with people that are, heels, but he never was one.
No. I can see that.
And to have a career like as long as his was,
and never,
he was like Ricky Steamboat. I mean, Ricky Steamboat again, but he's even older. His career is even broader than even I'm aware of, just because I wasn't old enough to see it.
Sure.
Steamboat never went heel. But to have a guy like Sting, like someone like that long, and then especially like moving into like the time period where the whole, if there's anything, okay, we don't really have any other ideas, we'll turn somebody heel.
Right. Right. There was never that moment. There was never that 6 month period where you're like, okay, we shouldn't have done that.
not once, not once. And
Stone
I think
Cold
a big
was
part
a
of
heel.
that.
Stone Cold was a heel.
Sure.
Stone
Cold always was. He always wrestled as a heel.
Yeah.
Hell, Hulk Hogan always wrestled as a heel.
Sure, absolutely.
Maybe he healed it up more.
Boy, in more recent ones, because he talks about never turning heel and things like that. Cena started out as a heel.
So Cena started out as a heel.
Thugonomics was a heel.
Yeah.
So
it's
and once he turned, he stayed face, but he was a heel.
He first came in. He was absolutely a heel. Yeah, I thought especially for the time, everything else, I thought he actually did pretty well.
Honestly, I kind of liked him then. He was I actually liked
Mark Wahlberg wannabe, but it worked. He was 100%. Able to do it,
But that's okay. Like bringing stuff in from the outside.
That's
Sting.
fine.
We're just talking about Sting, right? Crow.
Yeah, bringing in the Crow. But if you're able to do it, and again, like Scott Hall says, do it 100%, and don't go too overboard with it. Find that line. But I think. Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think, sure, they did that, but Sting definitely did it. Even now, the thing is, that's his gimmick to this day. That's his go-to gimmick.
If he shows it, all you got to hear is the Crow.
Yeah.
That's all you got to hear.
Yep. Or even see it on the screen.
When he came to WWFE, that's all you heard.
Yep.
And then you saw some crows. When he came to AEW, there was snow and there was a crow.
Yep. Didn't really get the snow thing, but yeah. And they're letting him, a 60 some odd year old him jumping off the top of freaking.
I bet he's also shorter than I expected him to be. I looked it up earlier. Sting is only an inch taller than Shawn.
Right.
Never would have.
But he's bigger.
Never would have thought.
Bigger. But he's not. Yeah, he's not. He looks much bigger, especially in the ring. I think when he was going up against Flair, I think he wore like riser belts, the little pads, and the thicker soles on them, things like that. Heck. Hell. If they can, if Taker and Kane.
Oh, they were always 7
wore them.
7-footers.
It's bad. You got it's only in wrestling where you get we got this 6'9" guy. He's not tall enough. Put some give him some riser boots.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Come on.
But yeah, he's like what, 6'2". I think his record right at around 250, maybe 260 at the heaviest. But even then, he was probably around like the 260 range. That was muscle. He didn't really. He's gotten older now, but he doesn't seem to be getting fat.
Bodybuilder.
Yeah, he came over with
thing that I grew up with seeing was the bodybuilder. Like I said, Surfer Dude Sting was cut up. He was right out the gym.
He came into wrestling out of a group. I can't remember the gentleman's name that put them together. There was 4 of them. Ultimate Warrior was one of them. But Sting and Warrior were part of a tag team called the Blade Runners. And I can't remember exactly what they were. I think Sting might have actually been part of his name. It was like some kind of title and a name.
Blade Runner Flash and Blade Runner Sting.
Okay, so Flash must
have been his first.
So Warrior would have been Flash, and then So they were basically was coming out of a group out of California that this guy was basically finding. He was finding bodybuilders and trying to turn them into wrestlers.
Yeah,
and
everybody was looking for the next because Hogan was full on.
One of those guys.
By now, right?
Yeah.
So
it made sense, and just finding guys of all heights. And you talk about like way shorter than he ever should be. Talk about Warrior.
Warrior isn't tall at all.
He's like 5'10",
yeah,
if that. He was
legitimately.
jacked, but he was small. He was very small, height wise. He was just like a little bowling ball running around in there. That's the other thing. Just like okay, get him real jacked up. Just keep him moving around fast enough. They won't realize how small he is.
Honestly, there's a little bit of that.
And then just send him right back out.
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior was known as Blade Runner Rock.
Blade Runner Rock. Okay.
So,
who's Blade Runner? Oh, so you're saying Blade Runner Flash was
Sting.
One of Sting's names. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's weird. I didn't realize he had another name within. Okay, I didn't realize he had another name within the Blade Runners.
Yeah, who knew?
That's interesting. That's
who knew?
Oh my God, man, that's nuts. But yeah, and again, another thing I was going to say is that again, I think this goes without saying. I mentioned this with Flair. Sting's one of those guys too, and Taker, really to me, where they're sure as hell on the Mount Rushmore, and so in a way, I don't even really think to. I don't really think that. It's not that I forget to. It's just that it seems like it's a more interesting thought process for me to think. Exactly. Right. It's there's almost kind of no point. It's like it's obvious. Like, well, yeah, duh, they're the tops. Otherwise, every list is just going to have like at the very least 3 of these guys are going to be on every list of the top 5, and that doesn't make it very interesting.
And there's a 4th guy, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. So to me, it's kind of like I just kind of same thing like when I think about like Jordan and other folks. It's just kind of like I just feel like, okay, wait, do I actually have to say it?
Sure.
Do I have to say that Michael Jordan is if I mean you can argue about the greatest of all time, but definitely in the like thinnest of upper echelon,
sure.
And it's like, to me, it's like, okay, it's okay, yeah, Superman, all right. Like, what kind of a conversation are we trying to have? Okay, we're done. All right, can we get lunch now? All right.
Yeah.
And so for me,
okay, next. What?
Yeah, and so because I could have easily put either 3 of those, and really Scott Hall too, on my list for sure. But I just kind of wanted to think about guys that drew me in.
But this is where you and I
kind of.
Like yes, I have some of the top guys, but they're gonna appeal to someone like me that I am looking for. If you can get my attention and you're a top guy, I'm the audience that you want to appeal to.
I'm the target audience in that way.
Audience.
Yeah.
Like Mark or whatever you want to call the wrestler.
Sure.
Stuff like that. Everybody acts like that's a bad thing. So you're trying to appeal to me. That's kind of what it comes down to. You want to make money?
Some of it kind of comes, and so it kind of comes down to where it becomes a derogatory term. Some of it kind of comes down from kind of an elitism thing.
Sure.
The real where it really gets its roots from is the carny roots of wrestling, and a mark is the same person that's watching the wrestling match and thinking it's real. It is the same thing as a mark who gets tricked in the rigged, carnival games that they can't possibly win. It's like, how do we fool you to get you to pay us money?
We need you to give us money, right?
That's how the whole carny in the whole, that's how that whole thing came to play, and that's kind of, it is what it is, but that's the roots of wrestling.
Right.
And because so the idea is that
no one did know. That
exactly.
That was
and it was and that's where the word like kayfabe is a carny term. They have their own language. Kayfabe is one of those words that came from the carnival.
Sure.
And so that's where a lot of that kind of comes through, and people kind of, use it, it kind of depends on the context.
Sure.
It kind of depends on the context of it, but that's where kind of the roots of it come, especially for some of the folks who are a bit more, I guess, can you say, hip to the back end of things. That's where it kind of came. It's like, oh yeah, we shield, this, this amount of money from the marks tonight.
Right.
But it's also where like we shield it from them.
Yes.
Like there is no like, oh, but I think the business itself started to, like, by the time either one of us started watching wrestling, I think the business itself had, I think the business had more respect for the fans.
Well, by that time, Vince had gone to Congress, or wherever he was fighting the government, and has already said, we're sports entertainers, and we are not. This is
no. Even before that, with the territory days, before where still the idea was, no, we do not expect you to believe it's fake. We still believe we're putting one on you in that way, but our view of you is more closer to a sports fan,
right,
than some idiot we just tricked.
Sure, yeah. You're not.
That's what I mean. Because
truly any of this.
Right? There was, but regardless if you do or don't, that's the thing. You could be completely fooled. Be completely 100% fooled. We don't even that. Who would have been the poster child for the idiot mark that we're going to laugh about counting your money,
right?
You dumbass.
Right.
Which was the previous approach.
Sure.
Understand it. There was a, true to form carnies despise the people coming into their carnival. They despise them.
Right.
You're normies.
Yeah.
And we're fooling you, and you're handing it over to us.
Yeah. You're so stupid.
But understand, we're conning this money out of you, you moron.
Yeah.
And for even deep into the territory days, it was treated that it's us against you. You guys, you are all just dumb simpletons. We are taking your money from you. And thing is, you're so stupid, you're handing it over to us.
Yeah, you're happy about it.
Yeah.
You're so happy about it.
So that's where the whole idea of the mark. It also comes from like con jobs, the mark for a con job. That was a big piece of there's quite a few con work going on in the carnivals. You'll see the kids of carnies like run around and then like distracting people, and then one of the other kids would steal their wallet.
Sure.
And little stuff like that going on, and that was kind of the we're not one of you. You're understand this is we're a different breed, and you're not it.
Right.
And so and again, deep rooted, I would probably say at least into the 80s. Kind of in the late 70s, it started to kind of turn around. It kind of probably became like territory to territory. Right. In terms of how that was treated. But like early on, like people in the business just basically felt that all the fans were fools, and but it was like, we tricked you, and
yeah,
there was definitely like some territories that ran like that.
I think Jim being a young. Before I even really got into understanding what wrestling was, watching it at all.
Right.
The younger version of me that was out knocking on doors on Saturday morning.
Sure.
And things like that. There were little grandmas that you did not play with their wrestling. There was no point in talking to them while they were watching wrestling. Like, wrestling was real. It was as real as you are standing there. Yeah, no. So there were, I remember vividly the young version of me going, okay, what the heck is this wrestling thing? And why is this 90-some-year-old lady is so angry about it? they believed it. It was part of it. So anyhow, we're gonna go ahead and call it a night here. Otherwise, it's gonna be a different kind of stream. So
that's our phrase for someone need to take a potty break.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's getting late anyway.
No, for sure. Yep. Yeah, it's 4 a.m.
Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah, we'll put together some other topics. I think we definitely have to try and do something, kind of start to look, especially talking about Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
I think it would be kind of cool to kind of dig a little bit deeper on his impact, and especially the way it changed wrestling.
Right.
And sort of how wrestling was treated, just how, and just how wrestling was different back in the day versus now. And
is it coming back? Is it coming back? We'll hold it. See, that's
we'll hold it.
We're gonna hold that. We're gonna hold
that. Because that's I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyhow, listen, thank you everybody that hopped on.
Thank you very, very much, everyone who hopped on.
Appreciate it. Always great to see you. Thank you for hopping in. If you're just sitting back watching and you're seeing us for the first time on YouTube, thank you. First off, appreciate you being there. Absolutely, without question. Drop in the comments, drop a comment for us. Let us know what you think. Is my list better? Is Jared's list better? Or are we both crazy? And there's another 5 that clearly should have been there. Let us know. And honestly, we made
just coming in with Roman Reigns in all 5 spots.
Absolutely, it's gonna be Roman Reigns and all of the yeah. It's gonna be the Shield and Honestly, one of the guys that I could have. I've gotten more of an appreciation for him over time, but it took time. It's CM Punk, to be honest with you. So CM Punk would probably be one of the. It took a little while for me to kind of warm up to him. Early on, I was like, okay, who's this idiot? But really good mic skills and things like that. So anyhow, listen, appreciate everybody. Thank you for hopping in. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff for YouTube.
Absolutely.
And otherwise, this is Getting Work signing off.
Later, fam.